Hi there, folks. Welcome to my live stream. My name is Jim, and I used to be a type 2 diabetic. Wow, that was obnoxious, wasn't it? How are you today? Welcome to my live stream. Good morning. It's early. How are you today? Welcome. Good morning, folks. Welcome to my live stream. My name is Jim, and I used to be a type 2 diabetic. And when I say I used to be a type 2 diabetic, I mean it just like that. I used to be a type 2 diabetic. I have reversed it. I'm in remission from it. I don't take medications for it anymore. That's because my doctor told me I don't have to. However you want to word it, I just don't have diabetes anymore. And I love doing these live streams and telling people exactly what it is that I do to achieve that. And so if that is something that sounds interesting to you, then stick around for this live stream. I'm going to tell you everything that I do every day to achieve that. And it's pretty simple. It's really simple, actually. More than that, if that's something that sounds like, something that a friend or a family member or somebody like that might benefit from, then share this live stream with them and let's get them involved in this conversation as well. Let's help as many people as we can get healthy. Guys, if you feel like you're trapped in this deal with medications and it's just this never-ending spiral like so many of us feel like we're in, know that there's a good chance that maybe you can just get out of that. There's some really interesting science that's coming out now that we're learning that a lot of these things have one central root cause, type 2 diabetes, all sorts of different things. They all have the same root cause. In fact, that's what this image is behind my head, is depicting one thing as the root cause. And if you deal with that root cause, well, then voila, you start to make everything just a little bit better. So let me get I see we've got, hey, Spicy Lady, how are you? I didn't have my chat box open. So let me go ahead and do another round of introductions for those that are just now joining. My name is Jim, and welcome to my live stream. I used to be a type 2 diabetic. And I say that I used to be a type 2 diabetic very, very, very intentionally. I try to choose my words carefully because honestly, I think words mean things. I've reversed type 2 diabetes. I don't have it anymore. I've reversed it. Dr. Jason Fung would suggest that type 2 diabetes is not chronic. It's not progressive. In fact, it is a completely reversible disease. I'm in remission from type 2 diabetes. If you like remission better than reverse, I'm in remission. I found an article on NIH that suggests that remission is completely achievable, oftentimes through weight loss. And then finally, my doctor took me off of all of my medications because I was a 12.2% A1C. When I became a 5.1, she was like, you don't need your medication anymore. So however you want to word it, I just don't have it anymore. I do wear a continuous glucose monitor, so I can see what my glucose looks like all the time. I like that. And right now, my glucose is beautiful because that's what it's like. I've been completely unmedicated for about 14 months now, give or take. February 17th. So exactly 14 months, not give or take. Exactly 14 months today. So if that is something that sounds interesting to you, then stick around for this live stream. I'm going to tell you everything that I do to achieve that type 2 diabetes remission in this live stream. More than that, if that's something that you think that somebody that you know or love could benefit from, then share this live stream with them and let's try and get them healthy just the same. Last year, I think we helped more than 50 people reverse their type 2 diabetes. That's just little old me. There is a bunch of people out here in this space talking about it just the same. Spicy Lady says, I feel I like remission. I feel I'm predisposed, but that doesn't mean I have to be type 2. Yeah. So we are also, I'd like to point out, we are live across multiple platforms right now. I'm using Restream, which is a service to go live across multiple platforms. So we'll start to see people trickle in. And when that happens, I see we have somebody watching us from Twitch. I will be able to throw the comments up like this. Now on TikTok, that's a little bit difficult to read because you got the thread right there. But you will see comments from people across multiple platforms coming up into those comment sections. So what are we at? I want to get something here. I apologize. Let's do this. While we're waiting for more people to come into the live stream, I want to do a couple more introductions. And really, folks, I know it sounds like I'm just killing time, stalling a little bit. I am just stalling just a little bit while people are coming into the live stream. So let me do a couple introductions for those that are just now joining. My name is Jim, and welcome to my live stream. I used to be a type 2 diabetic. I used to have diabetes. I don't have diabetes anymore. I have reversed it. I'm in remission from it. I don't take medications for it anymore. However you want to word it, I don't have type 2 diabetes anymore. And I love doing these live streams and telling people exactly what it is that I do to achieve that type 2 diabetes remission. So if that is something that sounds interesting to you, if that's something that sounds like you would like to be able to achieve yourself, then stick around for this live stream. And I'm going to tell you everything. I see Bunny Love on TikTok is asking how. Bunny Love, I'm going to dive right into this in just a moment. I'm just waiting for that head count to get up just a little bit higher, and then we'll launch right into it. But Bunny Love, let me just tell you, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy. It will actually shock you when you realize, and I'm not going to suggest that you go strict keto diet. I'm not going to suggest you go strict carnivore diet or you start spending 27 hours a day in the gym. I'm not going to do that. Are those things helpful? Absolutely. Should we be doing that? Yeah, there's some merit to it, right? But I'm not going to say that that's what I do because truthfully, it's not what I do. I did the same thing. My A1C was 10.2. It's now 5.3. No meds ever. Lee, that is incredible. How does that feel, by the way, Lee, to be in that position of not having to take medications anymore? Okay, let me do one more round of introductions for those people that are just now joining my live stream, and then we'll dive right into it, okay? Folks, my name is Jim, and I used to be a type 2 diabetic. And I say that I used to be a type 2 diabetic very, 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 very intentionally. I choose my words selectively because I think words mean things. I have reversed type 2 diabetes. Reversal is a powerful word, right? I've reversed it. Dr. Jason Fung would suggest that type 2 diabetes is a completely reversible disease. It is not chronic. It is not progressive. It is completely reversible. I'm in remission from type 2 diabetes. If you prefer the word remission over reversal, that's fine. I'm in remission, whatever you want to call it. I found an article on NIH that suggests that type 2 diabetes remission can be achieved oftentimes through weight loss. And then finally, my doctor just took me off medications because she doesn't think I have it anymore. So however you want to word it, I just don't have diabetes anymore. I don't have it. Is it an everlasting job, like getting rid of it? Yeah, I don't want it back, so I work at it every single day. And that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you exactly what I do to achieve that remission, reversal, whatever you want to call it. I don't call it cure. I don't like the word cure, so you'll never hear me use the word cure. Because as I go through this live stream, you'll understand, hopefully, you'll understand it's not really curable. It should have never happened in the first place. If you go back to doing the same old things, you'll get it back. Okay, that's why reversal, remission, that's why I like those words better than cure. Cure sounds like you'll never get it back. Well, once I go through this, hopefully it becomes apparent how you got it, why we got it. And if we understand why we got it, well, then you understand how to not get it again. And that's what this live stream really is going to be all about, is talking about how we got it, understand how we got it. If we understand that, then we can understand how to get rid of it. And once you understand how to get rid of it, then you can understand why you could get it right back. Okay? It's not like it's an airborne disease or something like that. It's absolutely what we're eating. It's absolutely our lifestyles. This is a lifestyle disease. Think about it like that. In fact, what if we remove the word disease from type 2 diabetes? What if we call it a symptom instead of a disease? That changes the whole narrative, right? That changes the whole narrative. If it's no longer called a disease, what if it's called a symptom of something called insulin resistance? Now we're getting into this, right? Pop 67, down 35 pounds since February. That is incredible, Pop. That is awesome. Let me throw this up. I recently started taking back taking black seed oil and sea moss every morning. Bunny Love, okay, there are all sorts of things that we can do, like apple cider vinegar, berberine, all sorts of things that we can do. I'm not opposed to any of those, okay? If they have merit, if they've been studied, I don't have a problem with those. They're not what I do. I don't take black seed oil. I don't take, that sounds awful, to be honest, to me. I don't want to take that, but if it's working for you, then wonderful. I'm looking at my head count. I'm going to do one more round of introductions and then we're going to dive right into this, okay? I'm going to do one more because we've got some other people that are just coming in. Folks, welcome to my live stream. My name is Jim, and I used to be a type 2 diabetic. And I say I used to be a type 2 diabetic because I used to be one. I've reversed it. I'm in remission from it. I don't take medication for it anymore. That's because my doctor told me to quit taking medication for it. It's not like I just quit. My doctor told me to quit taking it. However you want to word it, I just don't have it anymore. And I love doing these live streams to tell people exactly what it is that I do to achieve that. And it's quite simple. It's not like I medicated myself into remission. No, I changed my lifestyle, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I do in my lifestyle to achieve that. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, then stick around for this live stream. I'm going to tell you everything that I do to achieve that. More than that, if that's something that somebody you know or love could benefit from, then share this live stream with them, and let's hopefully get them into that same place of being able to say, I used to be type 2 diabetic, right? Okay. I went to, if it's natural, it's okay. Very little to no refined processed foods. That is wonderful. Also, Lee Blanton, and everybody in here, know that we are live across multiple platforms, multiple social media platforms. Right now, we are live on TikTok, Instagram, MX Cloud, Mixcloud, DLive, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So if you have friends that are not on TikTok, tell them this is the easiest place to find me. It's definitely my most active social media platform. But if they don't have a TikTok and they're not going to get a TikTok, have them follow me on Facebook or YouTube. I'm always at The Real Jim BBQ and The Healthy Pitmaster. And I do daily live streams to help people get out of this mess that we're in. Okay, so with that being said, as promised, let's talk about what I did to achieve that type 2 diabetes remission. And by the way, let's be interactive here. Talk to me throughout the live stream. Ask a lot of questions. If it's a question that I want to throw up, I will put them up on the screen like this for everybody on all the different platforms to be able to see. So with that being said, what did I do to achieve that type 2 diabetes remission? I started focusing on, what's up, Keith? How are you, brother? How are you, brother? I started focusing on the root cause of type 2 diabetes. Let's talk root cause today. And the root cause of type 2 diabetes is something called insulin resistance. That is this little bad boy right here. Insulin resistance. This image behind my head is depicting insulin resistance as the root cause for all of those problems. One of which is type 2 diabetes. Another is heart disease and stroke. How many people have dealt with something like that, right? How about Alzheimer's disease, dementia, polycystic ovarian syndrome, erectile dysfunction, sarcopenia, high blood pressure, migraine headaches, right? All of these things are caused by the same root cause. In fact, there are so many other things that are caused by insulin resistance. How about depression? What if that were a link, right? How many people are listening to me right now that maybe have a glucose problem? They have a hard time controlling their glucose, and maybe they would say that they struggle a little bit with their mental health. What if there was a correlation? What if you addressed the glucose problem and at the same time you just became happier? Wouldn't that be an amazing thing, right? And is that believable, right? What up, Jackie Lackey? Hey, Jackie Lackey. Jack, I am live across like 8 platforms right now. This is pretty cool. I miss your face too. Okay. What is insulin resistance? And let's understand what insulin resistance is. Looks like Mickey is over at Twitch. Love this. Bunny Love, you say, yes, that would be amazing. Am I to assume, Bunny Love, that maybe you've got some mental health struggles just the same, right? Like so many of us do. We'll see you, Jack. Okay. What is insulin resistance? Let's get to the root cause. What is insulin resistance? What is insulin? Let's start there. Who has a really good understanding of insulin? I did not until a year and a half ago-ish, and that's about the time that I started to take my health back. What is insulin? When you consume a food, let's talk about carbohydrates. When you consume a carbohydrate, your body converts that carbohydrate to sugar and puts it out to your bloodstream, blood sugar, right? But let's talk more specifically blood glucose. Glucose, blood sugar, blood glucose, sugar, glucose, okay? Glucose. And that is what your cells use for energy. That is their fuel source. Now, the cell is locked. It doesn't just allow the glucose to go in. It's not able to go in. It needs a key to unlock the cell. And that key is insulin. So when there is sugar present in your bloodstream, when there's glucose present in your bloodstream, your pancreas secretes a hormone called insulin. By the way, here's a question for you. What is a poll question for everybody listening to me right now? What is the most active hormone in your body? Let's just ask that question. What is the most active hormone in your body? Jamie White. I'm learning all I know about insulin from you. Love the explanations. Jamie, thank you. How are you, by the way? We need to talk. We need to talk. Shoot me a text, Jamie, and let's have a conversation. I haven't talked to you in a little while. That's a question, guys. What is the most active hormone in your body? What's the most active hormone? So anyway, while I'm waiting for that answer, let's go over to back to the explanation. Our body secretes, our pancreas secretes insulin. And one of the jobs of insulin is to unlock the cell for the glucose or the sugar to go into it. So you got this locked cell and you got this glucose kind of bouncing around, right? And then the insulin comes in and unlocks the cell. The glucose is able to go in. Problem solved. What happens next? The glucose, the blood sugar drops and the insulin drops. And that's beautiful. That's the way that it's supposed to work. Precious has it right on the head. Your most active hormone in your body is insulin. It touches every cell in your body. Think about that. It touches every cell in your body. What's up, Mickey? Watching from Facebook. Good morning, Mickey. So that's a perfect world. Insulin opens up that cell for the glucose to go in. The glucose, the blood sugar drops, then the insulin drops. Voila, not a problem. What happens when we spike our glucose? We throw a lot of sugar at the body. Nope, Hope, it's actually not testosterone. It's not testosterone. It is insulin. Insulin. That's the most active hormone in your body. Okay? Insulin kind of controls a lot of things. Insulin is a hormone. And so when you say, hey, I've got diabetes, well, you have a hormone problem. How about that? What if we start thinking about it like that? What if we break the mold of the way we've been seeing things? What if diabetes is a hormone problem? And all we have to do is get those hormones under control, right? So what happens when we spike our glucose and then we spike it again and we spike it again and we spike it and we just keep spiking it throughout the day? We end up with elevated glucose all day long. What does that do to that hormone called insulin? It leaves that insulin elevated all day long. And over time, the cell is going to become resistant to the insulin because it's just swimming in insulin all day long. And as it becomes more and more resistant, well, of course, it takes more and more and more insulin to get the job done. And so what used to take just a little bit of insulin to unlock those cells is now taking a lot of insulin. And so as you become progressively more and more pre-diabetic and then type 2 diabetic, your glucose levels, your blood sugar levels are always on the rise, right? And at some point, you end up type 2 diabetic, where your glucose just isn't going away, right? And so you're hyperglycemic, elevated glucose. Well, at the same time, you are hyperinsulinemic or elevated insulin. And hyperinsulinemia, that's the word that you need to like drill into your head. Hyperinsulinemia, elevated insulin. That hyperinsulinemia is what's causing the problem. So if you want to reverse your insulin resistance, stop bathing your cells in insulin. Come out of that hyperinsulinemic state. And you're not going to do that with medication. There isn't a medication that's going to drop your insulin, right? We need to control that ourselves. And how do we control that? Through our lifestyle. That's what this live stream is going to talk about, okay? Is how do we control that insulin? If you can start controlling your insulin, and it's not hard, by the way. I'm not talking about something that's difficult whatsoever, but it absolutely boils down to what you're eating and what your lifestyle is. Good morning, Tanya. So as we control the insulin, we start to control our insulin sensitivity. And if you can start to become more and more insulin sensitive, you can start to reverse that insulin resistance. And as you do that, voila. If you start to reverse the insulin resistance enough, you might see things like type 2 diabetes go away. You might see things like, erectile dysfunction go away. Do you know somebody who suffers from erectile dysfunction? What if we said, hey, that's caused by the same thing? What about high blood pressure? In fact, I've talked about what is insulin resistance, what causes insulin resistance. What's up, Dennis? How are you, brother? I want to talk about what are some of the other things that insulin resistance causes. I want to broaden this topic, okay? Right now, we've talked about type 2 diabetes so far. This entire live stream has been about type 2 diabetes. I want to broaden the topic. Let's talk about the other things that insulin resistance causes, and maybe some of those things that you've seen along the way long before you became type 2 diabetic, right? All those little tiny symptoms that now you're going to look back and say, yeah, boy, I was dealing with that when I was 20. And I had that when I was 25. I had that when I was 30. And then all of a sudden you get type 2 diabetic. You're like, hey, this came out of nowhere. No, it didn't come out of nowhere. Your body was telling you for the last 20 years something was wrong. We just didn't do anything about it. And eventually, 2 decades later, we got a big problem, right? So I want to go through this chart that's behind my head, and I'm going to name off all of those symptoms. As I name off the symptom, do me a favor and just type me if the symptom applies to you or somebody that you know, okay? That's what we're going to do. Is I'm getting a little cheat sheet up here for me on my iPad. As I name these off, if it applies to you or somebody that you know, type the word me. And Jamie says, I have cleared up my urticaria, chronic hives. Wow, that is awesome. I am 50 and just was started having uncontrollable glucose levels from 4. Look at that. I mean, that is crazy, right? So keep listening here, Nancy, and this will all start to make sense, okay? So as I name these off, if it applies to you or somebody that you know, type the word me, okay? And I'm going to try and keep up with this. So if you're on, looks like we've got people on YouTube as well as Twitch. If it applies to you guys, type the word me. I'm going to be throwing these up onto the screen like this here so that you can see them, okay? So stroke. Does stroke apply to you or somebody that you know? And by the way, stroke is by 12 o'clock. So you can't see it, but I'll tell you, you'll be able to see it here, okay? Stroke, does that apply to you or somebody that you know? How about heart disease? Do you suffer from heart disease, or does somebody that you know suffer from heart disease? How about obesity? 74% of Americans suffer from obesity. Oh, wow, they're coming in hot. They're coming in, let's go like this. Let's just do this. I'm going to say, we'll leave them up here. There's a bunch of people. We can see the me's. How about migraine headaches? Look at all the me's. And I understand that in TikTok, these are getting blinded by the other comments, but you can see them on YouTube. You can see them on Facebook. You can see them on Twitch. How about dementia? Now, I doubt if anybody who's listening to me is suffering from dementia, but do you know somebody who suffers from dementia? That's insulin resistance of the mind. Elise, migraines. How about osteoarthritis or childhood obesity? Polycystic ovarian syndrome. That's the #1 cause for infertility amongst women in the United States. Do you know any women that are infertile? How about fatty liver? Liver disease is liver cirrhosis, liver disease is a top 10 cause of death in the United States. At the top of that list is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. How about arthritis? How about Alzheimer's disease? Has anybody heard of type 3 diabetes? Type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's. How about erectile dysfunction? Okay. Oftentimes a symptom of something called autonomic neuropathy. The #1 cause of autonomic neuropathy is diabetes. 90 to 95% of the cases of diabetes are type 2, which is insulin resistance. Boom. We got a pretty easy connection between diabetes or insulin resistance and erectile dysfunction. How about sarcopenia? Sarcopenia, false information. Nathaniel says false information. Nathaniel, let me address Nathaniel real quick. I love it. I love it. I've got my first hater of the day. Nathaniel comes in here and he's saying that I'm giving out false information. I am not. In fact, everything I've given, let's start here. I'm going to share this tab with you. This is the Centers for Disease Control. Nathaniel, I'm going to take you on head on, buddy. Let's take this on. This is the Centers for Disease Control. It's their write-up on insulin resistance and diabetes. They say the food you eat is broken down into sugar. Blood sugar enters your bloodstream, which signals the pancreas to release insulin. Insulin helps blood sugar enter the body's cells so it can be used for energy. Insulin also signals the liver to store blood sugar for later use. Blood sugar enters the cells and levels the bloodstream decrease, signaling insulin to decrease too. And lower insulin levels alert the liver to release stored blood sugar so energy is always available. Now, in a perfect world, that's the way that it works. However, and somebody who's insulin resistant, a lot of blood sugar enters the bloodstream. I said that. I believe everybody here heard me say that. The pancreas pumps out more insulin to get blood sugar into cells. Over time, cells stop responding to that insulin. They become insulin resistant. This is exactly what I said. The pancreas keeps making more insulin to make cells respond, and eventually the pancreas can't keep up and the blood sugar keeps on rising. This is exactly what I said. I love it when Nathaniel or people come in and say that I'm giving false information. Now, let's talk about this guy right here. This is Dr. Ben Bikman. Dr. Ben Bikman is a professor of cell biology at BYU. Dr. Ben Bikman, let's look at his research and interests. They might interest a lot of people here. As I read this, it may interest a lot of people here. The focus of his lab, the Laboratory of Obesity and Metabolism, is twofold. First, we aim to identify the molecular mechanisms that explain the increased risk of disease that accompanies weight gain, with particular emphasis on the etiology of insulin resistance and disrupted mitochondrial function. Dr. Ben Bikman, he has dedicated his life to the study of insulin resistance. He has multiple doctorates. And, well, I don't know. These are the courses that he's taught. He's taught a lot of people all about this. He's been published more than 30 times. And here they are. And if you look at his publications, you'll see things like metabolic disease, glucose intolerance, biomarkers of metabolism and glycemic control, right? Insulin-induced impairments. That's what he does. Now, if you go to Google and type in Ben Bikman insulin resistance, you'll get about 191,000 results. It is widely perceived that Ben Bikman is the top metabolic. Oh, I wasn't sharing this tab. This is his tab on BYU. I'm sorry, I did not show this, but this is Dr. Ben Bikman. Here is his information. Go to byu.edu, look up Dr. Ben Bikman. Go to Google and type in Dr. Ben Bikman and insulin resistance. You'll get the 190,000. It is widely perceived that Dr. Ben Bikman is the top metabolic scientist in the world. And he has a website called Insulin IQ. If you are not a member of insuliniq.com, you should be. This is his website. As you scroll down, you'll see Why We Get Sick. That's a book that I've always got on hand. I love the book. It will change your mind. If you scroll down a little further, you'll see that very same chart that's behind my head. So, when Nathaniel says that I'm spreading misinformation, in fact, it is Nathaniel that is spreading misinformation. I'm doing nothing but talking about things that are on the Centers for Disease Control, that are published research, that are put out by people by Dr. Ben Bikman. Nathaniel, I'm not quite sure what your motivation is for trashing somebody who's actually giving good information, but yes, insuliniq.com. Okay. So Nathaniel says, just false information. If there's anybody that ever wants to question the information that I'm giving, I will gladly tell you exactly where I get it from. Okay. I will gladly tell you exactly where I get the information from. I love it when somebody like Nathaniel comes in and tries to call me out, because I give good information. If you want to get healthy, keep listening. Okay. So with that being said, we were at high blood pressure. How many people suffer from high blood pressure? If you have high blood pressure and you're listening to me, do me a favor and type me in the comment section. Now, this is one of the most common conditions in the United States, right? High blood pressure. It seems like everybody has high blood pressure. What if we were to just say, hey, high blood pressure is a really, really early symptom of insulin resistance? I got high blood pressure when I was 23. I got type 2 diabetes when I was 44. 20 years there was that I could have done something about it, but I didn't listen to the symptom. What did I do? Probably the same thing so many of you did. I started taking a medication for the symptom. I never did anything about the root cause, right? And what happened over time, because I wasn't doing anything about the root cause got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the symptom got worse than the current medication could handle. And now I needed to add more medication for the same symptom. How many people have that problem, right? You start off on metformin, and then after a year or two, you got to bump the dose of metformin. And then after a year or two, you got to go to a second medication. And then after a year or two, you got to add a third medication. And by the way, you're adding statin medications along the way, blood pressure medications along the way. Maybe you're one of the guys that has to take the blue pill. You've added that medication along the way. And you're saying, what is happening to my health? I'm taking all of these medications and I'm not getting better. Not getting better. Why aren't you getting better? Because none of those medications are dealing with the root cause. Is this making sense for everybody? A lot of people saying me. A lot of people saying me. Tuts, good morning. How are you? I did see somebody, and I want to throw this up there. Tanya threw Dr. Ben Bikman, Why We Get Sick, and cite insuliniq.com. Thank you, Tanya. I need more muscle. Muscle definitely helps with sugar absorption. Absolutely. What other? Okay, so we're pretty good, right? Is there anybody else that wants to come in and challenge me? I love Nathaniel. Thank you, bud. That got me off to the right start. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to go through a 3-step process of things that I do to reverse my insulin resistance. I hope you can understand that we're no longer talking about type 2 diabetes. In fact, let's throw in a couple other symptoms that are pretty prominent in society today. Oh, yeah, Tanya. Oh, yeah. Let's throw in some other symptoms, and I want to think of it like a symptom that's pretty prominent in the United States that maybe some people are affected by these symptoms. How about fibromyalgia? Are there anybody listening to me that suffers from fibromyalgia? How about gout? God, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they're like, my next door neighbors had gout forever. Good morning, girl. How are you? Gout. How about multiple sclerosis or diabetic neuropathy? That's pain, tingling, or numbness in the feet, legs, or extremities. Anybody deal with that? How about diabetic retinopathy? That's blindness caused by diabetes. Top 3 cause of blindness in the United States. Does anybody know anybody who's had an amputation? The number 1 cause for amputations in the United States, diabetes. In fact, if you were to think about people who you know that were amputees, I bet a good chunk of them are on insulin. They are giving themselves more insulin to control their diabetes, right? And we know now, hopefully you're hearing me now, say that hyperinsulinemia is the problem. Well, what does it do when you give yourself more insulin? If elevated insulin is already the problem, what happens when you give yourself more and injectable? Is there anybody listening to me that is on a insulin therapy? Are you a type 2 diabetic taking insulin? If that is you, type me in the comment section. Type me. Woody says they have pain, tingling, or it's nerve damage, right? Caused by insulin resistance. Anybody listening to me that's on insulin therapy? No? Okay. I feel like we got some quiet people in here. Okay. So 3-step protocol that I adhere to reverse my insulin resistance. Step 1 of the 3-step protocol. Let me get rid of this background, by the way. Step 1 of the 3-step protocol is intermittent fasting, a 16-8 time-based eating schedule. So out of a 24-hour day, I don't eat for 16 hours. I do eat 2 meals in the remaining 8 hours. Now, I think a lot of people are like, whoa, this doesn't, nope, can't do that. No, that's not going to work for me. That's not going to work. I need to have 8 meals a day. My dietitian told me I have to have 8 meals a day, right? Your dietitian probably said, hey, let's have a healthy breakfast and then a healthy snack and then a healthy lunch and then a healthy snack and then a healthy dinner. Maybe you've heard that, right? A healthy breakfast, 30 to 60 carbs, a healthy snack up to 15 carbs, a healthy lunch, 30 to 60 carbs, another healthy snack up to 15 carbs, and then a healthy dinner, 30 to 60 carbs. If you add those up and you max them out, that's 210 carbs. And I just want to be the bearer of bad news to you. If you are listening to me and you have a glucose problem, glucose is caused by carbs. Why does it make sense? If you are glucose intolerant, why does it make sense to eat so many carbohydrates? Right? Now, if our problem is hyperinsulinemia, always remember the goal, the target, right, is not the glucose. The target is the insulin. Break your mind of being glucose-centric, right? That is a side effect of the insulin problem in you. So insulin, elevated insulin is causing the cells to stop responding. What causes elevated insulin? Elevated glucose. What causes elevated glucose? The food we eat, right? Causes. Now let me throw one more out. I threw out obesity earlier. Obesity. How many people suffer from obesity? Duck Hunter. Ah, look at that. Been on the system for 12 days. Glucose is stabilizing, down 5 pounds, lots of energy. Look at that. Insulin is a storer of fat. What happens when the cell stops responding to the insulin? It can't put the glucose where it's supposed to go. Insulin is going to do something with that glucose. What does it do? It stuffs it into a fat cell. It's going to put it somewhere, and it's stuffing it into a fat cell for later use. Now, how many of us listening have that spare tire, that jelly belly, that extra added something right around the waist that they're like, man, I'm getting ready to get into a swimsuit. It's like the middle of April. I'm ready to like try and look hot for my spouse, and I've got this thing going on, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I want to get rid of it. Why do we have that fat? Why do we have the fat? The fat is an alternative fuel source for times of famine. Let me repeat myself. That fat is an alternative fuel source for times of famine. In the event that you're not able to eat for a day or 2 or 3, you've got an alternative fuel source. That's why it's there. Let me ask this question, a poll question, quiz question, trivia question. That's what a trivia question. What's the longest medically supervised fast in documented history? In documented history, what's the longest medically supervised fast? The longest somebody's gone without food and being medically supervised. What's the record for that? Anybody want to give me that trivia question? Right? I think it's almost a year. Woody says they're not sure. NBY Zanta says 40 days. J Armando says 284. We got 30 days, 4 days. April, how are you? 5 days. 382. The answer is 382 days is the record for the longest medically supervised fast. Gentleman in Ireland. Scotland or Ireland, one of the two. 382 days, and he lived. So when we skip breakfast, okay, when we skip breakfast, what are we doing? We are lowering our glucose, and if we lower our glucose, then we lower our insulin. And if we lower our insulin, what are we doing to the cells? We are resensitizing the cells. At the same time that we have our glucose and our insulin levels down, what are we using for fuel? You've tapped into that alternative fuel source. You have done, Dr. Mark Mattson is a neuroscientist out of Johns Hopkins Medical University. He has studied intermittent fasting for the better part of 25 years. Dr. Mark Mattson refers to it as metabolically switching your fuel source from glucose to fat. When you aren't using your glucose, you're not using insulin, you have metabolically switched your fuel source to those love handles. If you're trying to get rid of the love handles for the impending beach season, start fasting and use them for fuel. You will see that fat just melt away. And isn't that what you want to do? And it makes sense, right? And I think we've got this common misconception that you're getting skinny because you're starving. No, you're not starving. That is there as a fuel source. Everybody has a lot of calories. Think about this. All of that fat, those are calories. What are we using calories for? Energy. You've got a lot of stored calories on your body. You're not starving. You can skip breakfast. When I say a 16 and 8 time-based eating schedule, I'm talking about skipping breakfast. That's the level of commitment that I'm talking about, okay? And what are we doing when we skip breakfast? Well, our glucose is low, our insulin is low, we are sensitizing the cells, we are reversing that insulin resistance, we are using the fat. By the way, it's going to take about 12 to 14 hours to metabolically switch to your fat. You're not going to get to there in 8 hours, okay? You need about 12 to 14 hours of fasting time to flip that switch. That's when you start burning fat. So at 14 hours, you've just flipped the switch. Go past 14 hours, extend it a little bit. Maybe you can go to 18 hours, but let's start at 16. Yes, can I speak on PCOS and fasting? I've heard it's no bueno. Oh, fasting is perfectly fine. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is the #1 cause for infertility amongst women in the United States. Dr. Ben Bickman actually just last week Just last week, I talk a lot about Dr. Ben Bickman. He has a channel on YouTube. It's called Insulin IQ on YouTube. And then he does a weekly podcast called The Metabolic Classroom. And last week, he did a video. He did it's about 45 minutes talking about PCOS. And you will hear Dr. Bickman talking about intermittent fasting quite a bit. BIKMAN. Okay. More than that, Amanda Baker, and I should have thrown this up here. Amanda says, can you speak on PCOS and fasting? I've heard it's no bueno. Amanda, there are a lot of people who have done the exact same thing that I'm describing, and they've had wonderful results. Okay, reversing PCOS. Okay, I hope that kind of answered your question. And Tanya Lee typed it up here. It is Dr. Ben Bickman. Okay, also, if you are a woman, thank you, Tanya. Dr. Mindy Pelz, P-E-L-Z, has a book called Fast Like a Girl. Wonderful book, more tailored towards women. If you are skipping breakfast, when do you eat and how many hours between other two meals? Great question. I eat 2 meals in the remaining 8 hours of my day. So it's a 16 and 8 time-based eating schedule. So you might see every now and then somebody will type something like 16 and 8. Okay. This right here, I'm pinning it up on the comment section, 16 and 8. What that means is 16 hours of fasting in an 8-hour window. Some people might do 18 and 6 or 20 and 4 or 23 and 1. 23 and 1 really has another name called OMAD, or 1 meal a day, OMAD. So some people are OMAD. Some people might do a 5 and 2, and that language starts to change a little bit. That's 5 days of eating, 2 days of fasting, right? There might be some people, I talked to a gentleman the other day who takes a week per year. Around this time of year, he fasts for the last week of April, and then he fasts the week after Thanksgiving every year. That's strong. That's hard. I don't do that. I think it's cool. You get into some things called autophagy when you start to get into an extended fast. If you've got a lot of nasty cells that need to get out of your body, autophagy. When you start to fast for like over 24 hours, your body turns on the bad cells in it, and it starts using them for fuel. It kind of eats them, gets rid of them. Autophagy is wonderful. I'm not talking about extended fast. I'm not talking about autophagy. I'm talking about a 16 and 8 time-based eating schedule, skipping breakfast. Okay. And then at noon, I can break my fast. There's something to think about, right? Breaking my fast, break fast, breakfast. When do you break your fast? I break my fast at noon, and I go until 8 p.m. I'm allowed 2 meals. Okay. And I try and get as much time between those 2 meals as possible. Yes. By the way, guys, Tanya, I love Tanya. Tanya's an absolute rock star. Tanya is in here keeping up with the comments and answering questions here. I love it. Thank you, Tanya. So if you see Tanya typing in here, Tanya knows my rhythm. She's very helpful and takes screenshots of the things that she's saying. Okay. Who's heard of Dr. Jason Fung? Has anybody listening to me heard of Dr. Jason Fung? I heard that there are negatives to fasting as well. Do you know where the line is drawn? Lexa, great question. Great question. In fact, there was just recently an article posted in People magazine, I believe, that talked about the negative side. You're at 91% risk of heart attack or something like that for fasting. Has everybody seen that particular video? Maybe has anybody heard of that? Let me see. I'm going to open up something here. I'm going to share my screen. Bunny Love doing the exact same thing that I'm talking about. How do you reverse PCOS? Do the exact same thing that I'm talking about, okay? Okay, so this is my TikTok channel. I'm going to go to my profile. I just recently did a video, and it's right here. This is Dr. Bickman addressing that People magazine. Okay, this is Bickman talking about that exact article.
By now, you have seen undoubtedly the headlines reporting that intermittent fasting will increase your risk of dying from a heart attack by 91%, so almost double. Here is the headline that was issued by the American Heart Association on their media website. What's so important is that you'll notice I'm not sharing a research manuscript. It's because these are unpublished results. None of this is actually a published manuscript at all. This was from a report that was presented at a scientific meeting. In other words, none of this may actually end up getting published once it's gone through a formal peer review process. There could be so many confounding variables here. For example, this was based on data obtained over a 2-day questionnaire. And so they gave people a questionnaire of what did you eat? And they found that people who ate in an 8-hour or less eating window had this higher risk of dying from heart disease compared to people eating in a 12 to 16-hour eating window. And 16 hours is pretty crazy. But what if during those 2 days you happened to capture people who were working a 16-hour day or even more, and it only happened 1 or 2 of those days when this survey was actually conducted. So there are so many confounding variables that just mess up this kind of conclusion. And again, it's all correlational, which is to say it could be nothing more than a coincidence, and it likely is.
Okay. I hope that kind of addressed some things. That's Dr. Ben Bickman talking about that article. Okay. So let's see. From Facebook, Mickey, AHA is pushing that article as well. That's interesting. The American Heart Association is pushing that article. That's interesting, right? Okay. Lexa says, thanks. I'm not sure why that isn't popping up on my screen. That means my chat is broke. Let me address that real quick. I apologize, guys. It's pretty cool how sometimes my chat box quits working on me. That's a message. My chat isn't working with TikTok. Okay, let's see if we can get my chat box reconnected here. Okay, so in the meantime, if I don't respond to you guys, it's because my chat box is not integrated anymore. They usually get on it pretty quick. So let's see what happens. Okay, so who's heard of Dr. Jason Fung? I asked that question. I didn't see any responses. Has anybody heard of Dr. Jason Fung? Dr. Jason Fung is a nephrologist out of Toronto, Canada. In fact, Dr. Jason Fung is really good friends with Dr. Ben Bickman. Dr. Jason Fung, here's an interesting thing. He studies kidneys, right? Here we go. There's a bunch of comments. Looks like my chat is reintegrated now. Dr. Jason Fung is a nephrologist. He studies kidneys. He's becoming world famous for helping people reverse type 2 diabetes, right? He's got a 5-time best-selling author. He's written books like The Diabetes Code, The Obesity Code, The Cancer Code. They're wonderful books. He's written a book called Life in the Fasting Lane. In fact, who was it that was asking about PCOS? Bunny Love. Bunny Love. This book right here, one of the co-authors in this book had PCOS. She had PCOS that she was so bad that she was actually infertile. So bad, in fact, that her and her husband adopted a child because infertility was their life. It wasn't going to ever happen. So they adopted a child. Well, she started listening to Dr. Jason Fung. And what did Dr. Fung tell her? Strict glucose control and intermittent fasting, right? If we can control the glucose, then we can control the insulin. And so strict glucose control. He put her on a low carb, high fat diet, right? If we control the carbs, if we drop the carbs way down, then we drop the glucose, of course. And if we can drop the glucose, then we will drop the insulin. Low carb, high fat. Now, there's something we don't hear very often, high fat, right? What are we trained and conditioned to do? We're conditioned to have a high carb, low fat diet. Maybe you've never heard it worded like that, but in 1980, we reestablished the food pyramid and said you should have 11 servings of carbohydrates per day, right? 11 servings per day. And at the same time, we said, hey, go to fat-free products, lean products, light products, get rid of fat, get rid of saturated fat. So we went to a high carb, low fat diet. And what have we done since then? We've gotten fatter, we've gotten more diabetic, Alzheimer's is on the rise. All of this was to address heart disease, which is the number one cause of death in the United States. And what has heart disease done other than stayed at the top of that list? What are we doing? High carb, low fat. When we do that, you're spiking your glucose all day long. And as you spike your glucose all day long, you are spiking your insulin. And because it's a society in the United States, we've been doing that for half century now, it seems perfectly normal to sit down and nibble on some crackers. Let's see. It looks like it's reconnected now. I'm sorry. They are responding to me. Come on. Okay. Low carb, high fat diet. That is a keto diet. What is keto? We're keeping the carbs down. He also paired it with an intermittent fasting schedule, a pretty strict intermittent fasting schedule. And what happened? People started reversing their kidney disease, which is what he was really interested in. But along the way, they also reversed their type 2 diabetes. They reversed their PCOS. That co-author I spoke of not only reversed her PCOS, but she also reversed her infertility. She's now had 2 children with her husband, all naturally, not pills, none of that. Okay, so I'll put Tanya just pinned a comment up here. Dr. Jason Fung, Life in the Fasting Lane. Dr. Mindy Pelz, Fast Like a Girl. Folks, step 1 of my 3-step protocol is intermittent fasting. It's a 16 and 8 time-based eating schedule. What we're doing there is focusing on lowering our glucose, lowering our insulin, using our fat as a fuel source, and ultimately really just kind of skipping breakfast. If occasionally you can throw in a longer fast, then wonderful. This happens again. I'm sorry. Okay. Are there any questions about step 1 of the protocol, or are y'all ready for me to move on to step 2 of the protocol? If you're ready for step 2, go ahead and say ready. Just type the word ready, and I'll move on to, Claudia asked the question. Great. That's why I asked the question if we're ready or not. How many hours of fasting? So for me personally, I fast for 16 hours a day. I don't I don't eat for 16 hours. I do eat 2 meals in the remaining 8-hour time frame. Guys, I apologize. I'm being incredibly distracted right now by this internet service. Okay. Claudia, that's a great question. What time do you start? I stop eating at 8 p.m. and I don't eat again until noon the following day. And then between noon and 8, I allow myself 2 meals, no snacks, right? The idea is every time you eat, you're causing a glucose spike, and that causes an insulin response. So I allow myself 2 meals, no snacks, in the remaining 8 hours. So for me, that's noon to 8. I allow myself 2 meals. Now, if you work, say, the graveyard shift, well, you're just going to shift that eating window to what accommodates you best. Does fasting include liquids? Great question. This is not a dry fast, okay? However, I do want to throw in that I've had the great pleasure of working with a lot of Muslims who have struggled with Ramadan. Okay, and adhering to this protocol has helped them complete their dry fasts. And so many people, if you are Muslim and you're listening to me and you've struggled with Ramadan, right? And we got to understand Ramadan is a spiritual fast. Not completing Ramadan is, to me, I'm upset if I break my fast early. To them, it's a spiritual level, right? This is, it's not an option. And if they don't, they feel as though they've sinned. They feel like they've done something awful, horrible. And it happens a lot because of the way that we eat today and the foods that we're eating and the sickness that we have. So if you are listening to me and you are a Muslim and you struggle with Ramadan and you're dry fasting, this 3-step protocol that I'm talking about, I've had Muslims from literally all over the world: Somalia, Sierra Leone, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa. I've had Muslims from all over the world who have said that this has helped. Okay, so let me see. Rotten Dirty says 48 hours fast weekly. That's a 5 and 2 fast. Good for you. That's very challenging to be consistent with, but good for you. I joined late, so I just found you. Hi, Amanda Baker. Would you be so kind as to do a quick recap of what part 1 is? Yes, absolutely. Give me just a moment. What do you drink during fasting besides water? I drink teas, coffee, black coffee, not sugary coffee. Sugar, cream, those will break the fast. So black coffee, green tea, black tea. I have a specialty that I do drink that I'll talk about here in a little bit. But water-based products. Let's just say water-based products. And if you're leaning towards, am I going to say go ahead and have a zero Coke? I'm not a fan of the Diet Cokes, the Zero Cokes. They aren't healthy. Our bodies weren't meant to run on those. So let's talk about natural products like teas, coffees, waters, okay? Consistency, Claudia, yes, consistency is everything. What do you eat for both meals and in any particular way? Kate Reeder, that actually is a better question for towards the end when I'm done with the 3-step protocol. I kind of open it up to a full Q&A, but just briefly, I generally, if we're trying to keep our insulin levels down, right, and the insulin is driven by glucose, well, when do we have foods that really kind of drive the glucose? Is probably, around lunch and dinner, honestly. But as a family, it's more difficult to avoid those foods. So I choose to avoid foods that really spike my glucose at lunch. At lunch, I generally have very, very few carbs, if any at all. I might have bacon and eggs, and I love bacon and eggs. I have found that eggs, I wear a continuous glucose monitor. If you are having glucose issues, you're struggling with your glucose, I have found that eggs force my glucose down. They actually lower my glucose level. So eggs and bacon, I love bacon. And so that meal for me absolutely works. And I'm not skimpy on it. I might have 4 or 6 eggs and like 4 or 6 strips of bacon. I eat until I'm full. And then come dinner time, I will be a little bit more liberal. I give myself cheat days to where my wife and I will go get pizza from time to time. But generally, I'm probably either leaning towards the keto side or the Mediterranean side, generally for that. Okay, I hope that kind of answers your questions. Lexa, what if you don't have a gallbladder? How would fasting change things? Tanya, would you mind? I can't really do it from this platform. Would you invite Michelle into here? Because Michelle does not have a gallbladder, and she does this with ease. And I think she might be a person for Lexa to connect with. Is coffee or protein shakes okay? Liv, coffee is wonderful during that fast. Protein shakes are not. And if you're concerned about, maybe you're saying that for working out, if you are taking your protein shake for when you're working out, there are a lot of benefits to working out in a fasted state. And I'll kind of dive into that more in the Q&A section at the end. And I am going to talk about a particular tea that I drink here in step 2. I'm not going to suggest that anybody has to buy that tea, but I'm going to talk about that tea. And that tea actually has been shown to have some performance enhancing benefits. Some people that you may have heard of, like Zach Bitter. Maybe you haven't heard of Zach Bitter, but Zach Bitter is a world record ultra marathon runner. He holds the world record for the 100-mile marathon, 100 miles, like in a little over 11 hours. And then the world record for the miles eclipsed in a 15-hour run. He holds that record as well. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a professional baseball player, drinks the same tea that I drink. Mike Saunders is a power lifter who set 3 world records in one powerlifting competition, drinks the same tea that I drink. So there are some performance enhancing benefits that are associated with that tea. So if you're thinking the protein drink in the morning for a workout purpose, there may be something to intermittent fasting or working out in a fasted state. And the tea that I'm going to talk about a little bit may be a good solution for you. I hope I didn't get too long-winded there. Let's see. Is this your everyday routine or just so many times a week? Anne Marie, I do this every day. It is my non-negotiables, as I refer to it. Sugar-free water flavoring. Let's be careful with that, Carrie. Some of those sugar-free waters, they got a lot of stuff in them that just isn't good for us. So be careful with them. By and large, probably not a big problem, but what's the matter with just water? I'm ready to take bullet point notes. Here we go, Amanda. Okay, Kate Reeder. I've developed an egg allergy over the last 2 years, wondering if it's a gallbladder thing. Okay, keep listening here, Amanda. Keep listening here, okay? Let's see. I take collagen protein that I'd like to continue. Is there any reason you couldn't take it with lunch, Liv? Kate Reeder, skinny syrups. Again, let's talk about highly processed foods, which I'm really going to spend some time on in step 3 of this. So let's get away from the highly processed foods and most of those skinny syrups. I mean, if you can't pronounce the words and the ingredients, probably not the best thing for us. I cannot get my Robin. Send me a message, and we'll work together. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and jump to step 2 of the 3-step protocol. I hope everybody's okay with that. I love that interaction. Okay, I really liked that interaction. Keep interacting with me like that. Maybe the question that's on your mind. There are 60-some people listening to me on TikTok. We've got people listening on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Now, I can't see this chat feature right now doesn't connect with Twitter, so I can't see their questions. So there's a good potential that maybe one of your questions is something that they would have asked. So please ask those questions. If you are on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, please feel free to jump in the questions as well. And I will definitely try and answer them at the same time, and I'll do like I have everybody else and throw them up onto the screen here. So, but ask questions. There are a lot of people who are really, really quiet. They're shy. They don't want to throw their business out on the internet. And so they just kind of sit back waiting for somebody to ask the question. So please interact with me. You may be asking a question that somebody else could benefit from. So I really like this interaction. Thank you very much. Let's jump into step 2. Step 2 of the protocol is consuming more chlorogenic acid. Now, what is chlorogenic acid? Chlorogenic acid is a naturally occurring polyphenol. Tanya, thank you for popping that up there. So no matter what platform you're on, take a screenshot of Tanya's comments. What is chlorogenic acid? It is a naturally occurring polyphenol. Naturally occurring. We find chlorogenic acid, it's one of the most abundant polyphenols on Earth. Let's just add that little piece to it as well. It's one of the most abundant on Earth. We find it in a wide variety of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, green tea, black tea, coffee. Okay. In fact, It is most abundant in nature in a green coffee bean. That is an unroasted coffee bean. So it is most abundant in a green coffee bean. And because it is most abundant in a green coffee bean, there is a lot of research that revolves around around coffee consumption with regard to chlorogenic acid consumption. So I'm going to ask the question here with all the people. We've got what, 70 something people in total across all the platforms listening to me right now. How many of you are on a blood pressure medication? Let's start there. How many of you are on a blood pressure medication? Just say me. If you're on a blood pressure medication, and just type the word me. And I'm going to ask this question. What if I could show you proof that chlorogenic acid reduces blood pressure? Would you be interested in that? Just give me a yes or no. If I could show you proof that chlorogenic acid, the most abundant polyphenol on earth, it's in your coffee, could lower your blood pressure, would you be interested in that? And how many people are listening to me right now that are on metformin? Right? Metformin, that is one of the most commonly prescribed medications for type 2. They prescribe it to PCOS people. They prescribe it to a lot of people, right? What if I could show you proof that chlorogenic acid acts in a similar way to metformin? Again, beating this drum, the most abundant polyphenol on earth in your coffee. It's in your green tea, your black tea. It's in things like pears, apples, vegetables. Would it be interesting to you if I could show you proof that it acts in a similar way to metformin? And by the way, for the Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch people, well, there's somebody from YouTube, extended release metformin, right? How about how many people are on a GLP-1, right? With all the rave in the world right now, GLP-1. That's Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy, Zepbound, Trulicity, Saxenda. There's now an oral form, a pill form called Rybelsus. Now, how many people are on one of those? The GLP-1s. And truthfully, it sounds like we're injecting ourselves with GLP-1, right? In fact, what they are is a glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonist. GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. Now, glucagon-like peptide 1 is an incretin hormone that's generated in your gut. And what they have found is when GLP-1 is elevated, appetite suppression is down. When GLP-1 is elevated, the fat cell shrinks. When GLP-1 is elevated, glucose and insulin are suppressed. There are all sorts of benefits to elevating GLP-1, an incretin hormone, glucagon-like peptide 1. So naturally, it would be nice to elevate our GLP-1, right? And so what those medications are, they are not GLP-1, they are GLP-1 receptor agonists. They are agitating your body into producing more. Now, Dr. Bickman, he's on video saying if 1 to 10 is our natural state for GLP-1, they are pushing us to an 11. And when you get to that type of range, it's not without side effects. Every single one of those, every single one of them, on their own website. You can go to their website. Every single one of them has a potential side effect of thyroid C-cell tumors, including cancer. Did you know that? What they also do is they slow down your stomach dumping. We, as a society, our stomachs, they dump too fast. And so like in an hour, maybe we want them to wait 4 to 6 hours. Maybe that's where we need them to dump. Slow down the stomach dumping. GLP-1 slows down the stomach dumping. Those receptor agonists They might be slowing it down too much, like 24 to 48 hours. In fact, one of their side effects is something called gastroparesis. That's a paralyzing of the stomach muscles. Did you know that? Ribelsis, Sally, right? Are you on that, Sally? Did you know that there was a side effect, a potential side effect of gastroparesis, a paralyzing of the stomach muscles? Now, the reason I bring this up is, what if I could show you proof that chlorogenic acid is a natural way to increase your body's GLP-1 production? Would that be interesting to you? If I could show you proof that consuming chlorogenic acid is a natural way to increase your body's own GLP-1 production. It took me a little while to get full circle there, right? So let's jump over to some proof. I love talking about the proof. Okay, let's go like this. Let's say share the screen. And I'm going to go right here. Right here. Go to Google and ask Google what foods have chlorogenic acid. And it will tell you, in addition to coffee, fruits, and vegetables, as well as Chinese herbal medicines, are also a wide variety of sources of chlorogenic acid. Let's focus on coffee. A lot of research is done around coffee. But right here, PubMed Central. This is PubMed, not PubMed Central. This is PubMed. This is NIH. It's an official website of the United States government. This is a database for housing research. This is where doctors and scientists might go to learn about the different types of research that are done out there. And on there, I found this: the effects of chlorogenic acid on blood pressure. If you are on a blood pressure medication, this one right here should be of interest to you. A systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized clinical trials. And if you are in the scientific community, or if you are a doctor, would you just add into here? I believe this is the gold bar standard for research, right? A systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized clinical trials. This is what we should listen to, right? If you are in the medical community or the science community, would you agree with that? Now, let's scroll down, and in here, in conclusion, the evidence from published randomized clinical trials suggests that chlorogenic acid intake causes statistically significant reductions in systolic and diastolic blood pressures. Chlorogenic acid, we have proof, lowers blood pressure. To my people that are listening right now that said you're on blood pressure medication, do you find that interesting? Again, let's go back to here. What foods have chlorogenic acid? Coffee, fruits, vegetables. Amanda, I see you have to hop off. Give me a follow on all of the major social media platforms. If you're not following, by the way, if you're listening to me from one of these social media platforms, hit follow. Give me a follow on it. I put a lot of information up. I've been posting a lot of information to my Facebook profile lately. So give me a follow there, Amanda. And if you want, Amanda, reach out to me. I would gladly set up a one-on-one, like an hour conversation with you if you'd like. So let's look at this one right here. Amanda, if you'd like, reach out to me and we can set up a one-on-one. Okay, this research right here, again from PubMed, chlorogenic acid improves glucose tolerance, lipid metabolism, inflammation, and microbiota composition in diabetic mice. Chlorogenic acid in diabetic mice. How about that? The results showed that chlorogenic acid decreased body weight, so it helped lower body weight, and improved glucose tolerance and insulin resistance, so it improved insulin sensitivity, and these effects were similar to those of metformin. We have proof that it acts in a similar way to metformin. Now let's look at this one here. This again from PubMed Central, roles of chlorogenic acid on regulating glucose and lipids metabolism. This one's pretty interesting. For example, It is reported that daily consumption of 3 to 4 cups of decaffeinated coffee containing high contents of chlorogenic acid significantly reduced the risk for type 2 diabetes by 30%. Chlorogenic acid is a novel insulin sensitizer that potentiates insulin action similar to the therapeutic action of metformin. Is that, if you're on metformin, do you find that to be interesting? Chlorogenic acid is a novel insulin sensitizer that potentiates insulin action similar to the therapeutic action of metformin. This is stanford.edu. Okay, Stanford Medicine, to be more exact. And this is Dr. Andrew Huberman's profile on it. You'll notice he is an associate professor of neurobiology and, by courtesy of, psychiatry and behavioral sciences. He's an associate professor of neurobiology. Now, Dr. Huberman received his bachelor's from the University of California, Santa Barbara, his master's from the University of Cal Berkeley, his PhD from the University of Cal Davis, and then his postdoctorate from Stanford. Dr. Andrew Huberman is quite brilliant. If you are currently taking a GLP-1, right, Ozempic, Mounjaro, something like that, I want you to listen to this video by Dr.
Monsters, those really scary things. Guy down in South America was looking at Gila monsters, those really scary things, and he realized they don't have to eat very often. I wonder if they're hungry all the time or not. Turns out it takes their blood, isolates a peptide, which turns out to be GLP-1, puts it into other animals, and realizes it suppresses appetite. Amazing, right? Like this is what I love about biology. Some dude who studies Gila monsters. Turns out humans make GLP-1. GLP-1 is stimulated by things like yerba mate tea. Certain other compounds, plant compounds, stimulate its release. But what does it do in the hypothalamus? It suppresses hunger by way of, there's a particular brain arcuate pathway, blah, blah, blah. But it also affects the mechanosensors of the gut so that you feel like your gut's full. Like it's almost like you're getting like a pharmacologic tummy, stapled stomach, right? So when people take a drug that mimics GLP-1, their brain is like, well, I'm not as hungry, and their stomach feels full even though it's empty. The guy down in South America was looking at Gila monsters.
How about that? That interesting to anybody? Yerba mate tea increases GLP-1. Something as simple as yerba mate tea. Is that interesting to anybody right there, right? It got real quiet on me. Is there people still here? If I bored you, if I run you off, just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Anybody? Bueller? That got really quiet. Maybe I should stop this live stream. Oh, there we go. Okay, gotcha. The tea of South America. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that we were still... Okay, I got you. Nidary says, yes, I'm working and listening. Okay, cool. I want to make sure. It gets boring if I'm just talking to myself. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. We are on listening mode. Gotcha, Claudia. Love it. Okay. So, yerba mate tea. You just heard a gentleman who is quite brilliant talk about the benefits of yerba mate tea. Now, if you're unfamiliar with yerba mate tea has been widely consumed in South America for the better part of the last 500 to 1,000 years. Now, the indigenous people of the regions of South America that are now Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay, they were sipping yerba mate tea long ago, and they would say that it made them feel full. It gave them an amazing boost of energy. What was it about the yerba mate tea that did that? Well, it was the chlorogenic acid. Okay. So if you want to increase your chlorogenic acid, you can do it through certain fruits, certain vegetables, certain Chinese herbal medicines, green tea, black tea, green coffee, yerba mate tea. Is there anybody that has any questions about that? Lacey, how do you get rid of what? How do we get rid of what, Lacey? And are we, yes, Nida Re. Here we go, yerba mate. I'll pin that up here. Can you see that, Lacey? Let's see. I'm wondering if I can change the location of that. It'd be nice if I could change the location of that, right? But I don't think I can. Okay, yerba mate, Nida Re. Drinking traditional yerba tea the way the Argentinians do so is inconvenient in today's world. It is. Lacey, keep on listening. Okay, Lacey has skin tags. Keep on listening to this live stream. I'm talking about it right now. Okay, swollen legs with redness. Keep listening, Argento. Okay, Nida Re. Okay. Any questions about consuming more chlorogenic acid, or I've got a supplement. I mentioned it earlier. I want to talk about, Anita. Okay. I talked about a supplement earlier that I sip on. Does anybody have any questions about where to find chlorogenic acid, or are we ready for me to talk about that supplement? If you're ready for me to talk about the supplement, type ready. And if you type ready, I'll know we're ready. But let me know. We have questions, or are you ready for the supplement? Talk to me. Ready. Carrie says ready. The supplement. That's what I'm sipping on right now. Okay. We just heard Dr. Andrew Huberman talk about yerba mate tea. This here is a yerba mate extract. Now, yerba mate extract, what does that mean? That means that this company is still buying the yerba leaf from those original farmers in South America. That really is the only place that it grows. There's a thick red clay-like soil, and when they pair that with the rainforest, that dense climate of the rainforest, that really is the only place in the world that leaf will grow. And so they still purchase their leaves from those original farmers. In fact, those leaves have to be individually harvested, hand-picked, in about a 1 to 2 week window throughout the entire year. Very selected process. They take that leaf, they still fire roast it in a way that it's been done for the last millennia. And then they stop the traditional process and they extract the good things like chlorogenic acid, the other good things like theobromine, and then they put it through a hyperpurification process where they get rid of the things that we don't want, things like pesticides and heavy metals, and then they concentrate it. And it is very, very concentrated. Now, this is their lemon flavored, but this particular packet of tea, which I've been sipping on, if you've been seeing me sipping on this, 24-ounce Yeti tumbler. I just bought this at Ace Hardware, I think. I fill it with coffee temperature hot water and one of these packets, and I will sip on this thing for like 3 hours. Now, what this tea does is it has 10 times the chlorogenic acid of a typical cup of coffee, 20 times the chlorogenic acid of a typical cup of yerba mate. More than that, it's an amazing appetite suppression. It induces ketosis up to 80 times faster than when we're not drinking it. It aids in weight loss. It acts in a similar way to metformin. But above all those, Dr. Ben Bickman, the gentleman that I've been talking about, this guy right here, Dr. Ben Bickman, let me see here. This guy right here, Dr. Ben Bickman, professor of cell biology at BYU, he is currently publishing some research on this tea, this exact one, not yerba mate in general, but the yerba mate supplement that I'm holding in my hand. Dr. Ben Bickman says that this tea promotes GLP-1 production by up to 70% during a fasted state. Okay, up to 70% increase in GLP-1 production during a fasted state by simply drinking this tea. So in the morning, the first thing that I do, I wake up and I drink that. Now, if you are into working out, a fasted state, something like that, there are some amazing athletes that are on this that are like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., like Zach Bitter, like Mike Saunders, powerlifter, world record holding powerlifter on that tea. But really what it does, it gives you an amazing boost of energy, and it's an appetite suppressant. So right now I am in my fasted window. It absolutely takes that food noise away. If you are overwhelmed with the food noise, it makes that go away. Okay, so that's the supplement. Are we ready for step number 3? If we're ready for step 3, then type ready. If you have any questions about steps 1, 2, chlorogenic acid, feel free to ask, or type the word ready, and I will jump into step 3. Looks like we got about 47 people. Hi, Billie Jean says she's just joining. Welcome to my live stream, Billie Jean. We are streaming across multiple platforms. We got a number of people from Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch listening, as well as 48 people on TikTok. Chris, what brand is the supplement? Great question, Chris. And I actually, Anita Reed, wonderful. I respond to all messages. Okay. Chris, I actually don't give out the name of the supplements until the end of the live stream. And here's why. Simple. What I found is that when people get the name, they jump out of my live stream, they go and Google it, they find out it's exactly what I say it is, and then they come back into my live stream, but they've missed step 3, which I'm getting ready to start right now. So I don't give it out until the end. And then more than that, there are a lot of people who aren't interested in buying a supplement. And I try to be fairly upfront and say that you don't have to buy anything. It's not a big commercial. I talk about the supplements that I take and why I take them. I think I've explained why I take that one pretty well. But for the people who aren't interested, I'm trying to be respectful of them too. So at the end of the live stream, if you are interested, if anybody's interested, I always give the names away and where to find them and all that. So I hope that's understandable. Okay, Nita Ree, wonderful. Send me a message, and we will definitely connect. Okay. So are we ready for step 3, or are there any other questions on steps 1 or step 2? Just a quick recap. Step 1 is intermittent fasting, 16 and 8 time-based eating schedule. Step 2 is consuming more chlorogenic acid. You can get awesome, Robin. Awesome. Congratulations. We are ready. I want to check something real quick. Robin, I see you. I see it. And so I see you, Robin. Keep listening, okay? I see it. Is that, Robin, a... Let me see. Are you out of Indiana, Robin? Okay, I see it. Okay, step 3 of the protocol is consuming more fiber. 93% of Americans don't get their recommended daily intake of fiber. 95% of men, 91% of women don't get the recommended daily intake of fiber. Now, why does that matter? Fiber helps our bodies naturally regulate its glucose. And of course, regulating glucose means we also regulate our insulin. If we can control our glucose, we can control our insulin, right? And that's absolute key. That's the problem, is hyperinsulinemia, elevated insulin. Well, if we can regulate, well, guess what that does? So Let's talk about fiber. Why does fiber, you're going through detox from plant fiber? That makes sense. So does that mean, Wendy, that you just got an upset tummy? You're spending more time on the throne than you would care to spend. Is that what I'm understanding, Wendy? Why? What does fiber do? How does it help our bodies naturally regulate its glucose? In fact, I'm going to throw a statement out, and you guys just type heard it or type yes or no if you've heard it, okay? A diet adequate in fiber drastically reduces your risk for heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Have you heard that statement, yes or no? A diet adequate in fiber drastically reduces your risk for heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. If you haven't heard it, maybe go read the Cheerios box. I think it's an absolute abomination that they put that on a Cheerios box, but you'll find American Heart Association, right? So, Wendy, keep listening. Migraines are a symptom of insulin resistance. Keep listening. Why? Why does fiber help our bodies regulate glucose? There are two kinds of categories of fiber. There is a soluble fiber. There is an insoluble fiber. Now, insoluble fiber does not dissolve in water. Soluble fiber does. So insoluble fiber might look like, and my favorite example as of late is quinoa, right? When you eat quinoa, that's a whole grain that you'll boil to tenderness and then eat. And when you eat it, the next morning you poop it out, it looks the same. It hasn't changed in shape, right? What does quinoa do? It goes through your body like a roto-rooter. It goes through your gut tract and it gets rid of all of the things that you're not going to consume and pushes them out the backside. Now, soluble fiber is opposite. Soluble fiber forms this thick, sticky, gelatinous kind of matrix, fiber matrix throughout your gut tract. And what does that do? It really slows down your body's ability to process the carbohydrate. And so let's just say that we don't have any of that whatsoever. We're eating something like a slice of white bread. That's all carbs, no fiber whatsoever. What happens when you eat that? Your body converts it to glucose quick. You get a quick high glucose spike. You'll notice if you eat white rice, if you eat white bread, what happens to your blood sugar? It gives a quick high glucose spike. Well, there's no fiber. In fact, let's talk about an orange. What happens when you eat an orange? You get a quick high glucose spike. It is sugar, no fiber. Okay, now what does that quick high glucose spike do to your insulin? We spike our insulin just the same. Now, the opposite of that would be, what if we have an adequate amount of fiber? And that sticky, gooey tract thing all through our gut tract, now when you consume that piece of bread, it really slows down the process. And when it slows down that process, instead of getting a quick high glucose spike, we get a slow, gradual climb. Now that slow, gradual climb, what does that do to our insulin? Slow, gradual climb as well. And that is key. Keeping that insulin, that glucose down and then the insulin down. If we can control the insulin, then we can control the hyperinsulinemia and ultimately reverse our insulin resistance. That's what you're trying to do, reverse that insulin. So a good blend of both soluble and insoluble fiber matters. Getting both, not just soluble, not just insoluble, you need both. Now, each plant has its own type of fiber. Okay, there's many types of fibers out there. You need a wide variety of fiber. And Tanya just put in here, I love that Tanya does this. Women need 21 to 25 grams of fiber per day. Men need 30 to 38. The national average is only about 15. Think about that. Think about that. We need between 21 and 38. The national average is 15, about 15. By comparison, there's about 14 grams of fiber in a medium avocado. So the national average, we're getting about one avocado worth of fiber per day. Why are we so low on fiber? It's absolutely because of the highly processed foods that we're eating. If you go and look at the boxes, if you look at the bags, go look at the box of mac and cheese, go look at the bag of chips, go look at the soda, right? Look at the back side of it. It's sugar, no fiber. Okay. What have we done? We've removed the fiber from the sugar. And you're saying, whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean by that, right? Let's think about a grain of rice. Okay, I want to pick on a single grain of rice. The white rice, the brown rice, I don't really care, but rice. How does it come in nature? It comes wrapped in a husk, that tough paper. If you eat wild rice, you've seen the husk that I'm talking about. It's that white type of, it's technically called the bran, and the bran is wrapped around the ectosperm. What you're eating, what we generally eat as rice, is called the ectosperm. In nature, it comes wrapped in bran. What are we doing? The bran, by the way, is the fiber. We remove the bran, we remove the fiber, and you eat the ectosperm, just the sugar. If you look at apple juice, what does apple juice really look like? Apple juice is just sugar water, right? How does it come in nature? It comes wrapped in pectin fiber. An apple has a lot of pectin fiber. What do? We remove the fiber, we give you the sugar water. In fact, if you look at a sugar cane in nature comes wrapped in fiber. We remove that, we give you the processed sugar. So as a society, we are consuming entirely too many highly processed foods. Look at wheat. We remove the fiber, we give you white flour. Is this making sense? So you've probably heard, how many people are listening to me right now have heard, hey, I need to avoid the highly processed foods, but maybe you haven't totally understood why. This is a big part of why. This is a big part of the why. There's also things in highly processed foods like seed oils. I want to spend some time, Tanya, I'm going to throw you a curveball here, Tanya. I never talk about seed oils, but seed oils, vegetable oil, canola oil, grapeseed oil, right? Seed oils, they cause inflammation. How many people are listening to me right now that suffer from inflammation? What I want you to do is, when you're looking at a product in the grocery store and it says all natural, right? Flip it around and read the ingredients and just see, is there canola oil in it? Is there grapeseed oil in it? Is there vegetable oil in it? Probably canola oil, right? And we've got a problem with inflammation. Well, those seed oils, user 3252, preach it. I was told that, but didn't understand why. The doc never explained that to me. So if you want to drop the inflammation in your body, stop eating the seed oils. These are in highly processed foods. Just go look at the back of your bottle of ketchup, right? Let's be clear, ketchup is a vegetable, right? But it's not. How much other stuff is in there? How much sugar is in ketchup? So avoid the highly processed foods. I love this. Tanya, the better fats to use, real butter. I'm going to add to that, Tanya. I want to say grass-fed butter, okay? Real grass-fed butter. Avocado oil, extra virgin avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil. That has to do with how they extract it, the extra virgin portion of it, as opposed to being chemically extracted. Ghee, coconut oil, yes. These are, you know what, I heard somebody say recently that if it started off as a solid, that's the type of fat you should be using, or the type of oil you should be using, right? That's kind of a crazy way to think about it. Okay, so with that being said, let's avoid the highly processed foods. Dr. Ben Bickman would say if it comes in a box or a bag and has a barcode, it's probably highly processed. Leave it alone. Don't eat it. Where are we going to get minimally processed foods? We're going to shop the outer aisles of the grocery store. The center aisles of your grocery store are where you're going to find all of those highly processed foods. get out of the center aisles, shop the outer aisles. On the outer aisles, you're going to find things like the produce section, right? Go to the produce section. Paulina, you've got, what did I miss? I've got both skin tags and darkness around the neck. Paulina, the skin tags, as well as the darkness around the neck, that's called acanthosis nigricans, by the way. They're both caused by insulin resistance. This entire conversation has been about insulin resistance and how to reverse it. Jump right in. So what we're going to do, we're going to go over to the produce section, and you're going to get a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. When you're at the fruit section, we're going to kind of stick to the skin on fruits, the fruits that we can consume the skin of, things like apples, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries. There's a lot of polyphenols. Remember, chlorogenic acid is a polyphenol. We're going to enjoy the skin on fruits. There's a lot of fiber in that skin. So we're going to minimize the skin off fruits, things like bananas and oranges. Now, this is just kind of a guiding light. It is not like the absolute end all. For example, an avocado would be a skin off fruit. I want you to eat 2 to 3 avocados per day. They are wonderful for us. They are quite literally a superfood. Avocados. So that's a skin off fruit, but let's eat those. But let's avoid maybe the citrus fruits, right? Those not citrus, what do they call them? Tropical fruits, the tropical skin off fruits, oranges, bananas, grapefruits, that sort of thing. Okay. So, and we're just going to minimize them. Please don't send the orange police at me. The other thing we're going to do is when we go to the vegetable section, do the same thing. Get a wide variety of vegetables. Get a wide variety of leafy ones. Get a wide variety of cruciferous ones. When you're in that area, we're going to stick to above ground, less starchy. Above ground, less starchy. That is absolutely a jab at the potato situation that we have. We are consuming entirely too many potatoes as a society, and there is virtually no fiber in a cooked potato. They are high in the glycemic index. They are causing our glucose to spike, which is in turn causing our insulin to spike. And how often do we have potatoes? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, hash browns, French fries, mashed potatoes. Every day we have that. We've got a potato situation going on. Let's just minimize that rather than, and here's something you've heard, moderation, right? Enjoy them in moderation. Treat them as a treat rather than a staple. Paula, oh my goodness, I eat potato everything, right? Well, they are causing your glucose to spike. And when you do that, that causes your insulin to spike. When you spike your insulin, you start living in a hyperinsulinemic state. That in turn causes your cells to stop responding. And that starts the tailspin, right? So minimize them. Enjoy them as a treat. We just don't have to have them every day, every meal. I enjoy my potatoes. I do it infrequently now. I used to do it every meal. Okay. Are there any questions about step 3, which is adding more fiber? I do have a fiber supplement I want to talk about, but just like the tea, I'm never suggesting anybody has to purchase anything. I'm never suggesting anybody has to purchase anything. However, I do use a supplement, and just like the tea, I would tell you why I take it. I do highly recommend it. So if you're ready for that conversation, type ready. If you have questions about any of the 3 steps up to this point, step 1 is intermittent fasting. Step 2 is consuming more chlorogenic acid. Step 3 is increasing your fiber. Are we ready or no to talk about the supplement? So we got about, by the way, we got about 54 people on TikTok. We've got quite a few people on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. This is awesome. Awesome. Chris says he's ready. Jason says best. Jason, are you talking about the product I'm getting ready to talk about? Or are you saying you want to know what the best product is? Paulina, 16 and 8 time-based eating schedule. Let me come back to that, okay? But I do a 16 and 8 time-based eating schedule. Jason, gotcha. Jason's already, he knows what I'm going to talk about, and he's saying it's the best product out there. What if we only eat one time a day? With the system, I am not hungry till early evening. Isn't that crazy, Jamie? So take the fiber supplement before that meal. Maybe drink a second tea. Paulina, Paulina asks, how do you know what times are best for you to fast? Okay. Let me come back to that, but I'm assuming, Paulina, I can see the profile picture. You're a woman. There's a book called called Fast Like a Girl by Dr. Mindy Pelz. Be a great book to read. Now, I personally fast between 8 p.m. and noon the following day. I allow 2 meals between noon and 8. Let me come back to you, though. Okay, so here we go. Yes, and I'm old. I bet you're not as old as me. Oh, 51's not old. Okay, the fiber supplement that I talk about. This here, right here. Does anybody remember Rexall Pharmacy? Who remembers Rexall Pharmacy? If you recall Rexall, just type I do. Rexall Pharmacy, about a 120-year-old company founded in 1902. And really, I won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but prior to Rexall Pharmacy, there weren't pharmacies, there were drugstores. And there were not pharmacists, there were druggists. And really what that meant, there was no formal education that had to be acquired to become a druggist. They were quite literally druggists. They would mix things, and you've heard of like the original ingredients to Coca-Cola, right? And things like that being mixed into concoctions and given to people to treat. A druggist was that, and they had their own individual concoctions. And if you lived in a town and maybe you had a good druggist, but then you moved to another town, well, that druggist maybe didn't have the same recipes as the one in your last town. Or maybe you were just visiting and you got sick in another town, and that druggist wasn't the same as the one where you came from. So what Rexall did was, there was a gentleman that went out and he thought, we need to kind of standardize this. And he went to 40 drugstores and offered them a franchise opportunity with Rexall. There were 40 stores. He offered them $4,000 buy-ins, which in 1902 had to be a mint. But he got 40 stores to jump in, and they did. And there was a gal, Regis, who was an amazing druggist, and she had quite the reputation. And so what they did was they built this pharmacy off of her recipes. They standardized them. They made them in a central location and then shipped them out. And so all of a sudden, there was standardization across the board if you were a Rexall distributor. And now Rexall would take that model and just get huge. At one point, I believe in the mid-50s, they were up to 11,600 stores throughout North America. And I always like to say, for comparison sakes, there are currently about 13,000 McDonald's. So if you can imagine, about as frequently as you would see a McDonald's today, you would have seen a Rexall in its heyday. Now, of course, they aren't quite as prominent now. Corporate America, Walgreens, CVS, that type of buying power really started to break the back of those independent. Remember, Rexall was independently owned. When you went in, you met Dave and Sue, who were the owners of that Rexall franchise. Over time, that model broke down compared to the corporate purchasing power of the big guys like Walgreens, CVS. And they are not quite as prominent as they once were. They still are pretty prominent throughout Canada. Now, the reason I'm talking about Rexall is in the late 80s, Rexall, with their very forward-thinking thought process, developed this. It is a blend of fiber. Now, recall, blend. You need a wide variety of both soluble and insoluble fiber. Well, Rexall knew that, and they went and got 7 different types of fiber in here. If you were to look at the traditional, like Metamucil, Benefiber, Metamucil is psyllium husk, Benefiber is wheat dextrin, and that is it. It is not a blend of fiber. Well, Rexall knew that the blend was necessary. The other thing that Rexall knew was that we needed some sort of a multivitamin. Supplementation was becoming a necessity. And so they added to that blend of fiber a vitamin supplement. And what this really is a fiber and multivitamin combination therapy. Think of it like that, fiber and multivitamin combination therapy. Now, that fiber and multivitamin combination therapy has stood the test of time, 35 years old, and it's been studied across the globe. There are more than a dozen clinical validation studies done on this product alone. It's been studied at UNLV, Stanford. It's been studied all over the world. But I want to pick on a few locations in particular. And to talk about those locations, I want to talk about some statin usage. Who is listening to me that is on a statin medication? You're sending folks my way. Brandy, I've been on the system. Cut 5 months, and I am stuck. Haven't lost weight. Brandy, who is your coach? We have one up here still. Holly, where are you at? You say we have one up here still. Are you in the States or are you in Canada? How many people are listening to? We got 67 people on TikTok. We've got quite a few people on all the other platforms. Let's see, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Michigan. Yep, they are still up in Michigan. Yes. Olga, hello. How are you? How many people are on a statin medication? If you're not familiar with the term statin, maybe that's a cholesterol lowering medication, something like Lipitor, Crestor, Zocor. Maybe you're on the generic, something like atorvastatin or rosuvastatin or simvastatin. How many people are on one of those? Patrick, how are you, brother? My son has the little bumps. Why did he get them? Can you explain? Keep listening, Sandy. I can always tell when that video on TikTok is going viral. I think it's at 200 and some thousand views right now. It's pretty crazy. By the way, no matter what platform you're on, my TikTok platform, I've got a lot of videos that are really dedicated to this topic. If you're into watching videos, you should follow me on TikTok, and my videos on TikTok are all really centrally themed around this topic. Doing better since I've met you, my friend. That's kind words, Patrick. That is very kind words. Shoot me a message, Patrick. When you get time, shoot me a text message, brother. Okay. Nobody's going to say that they're on a statin medication. There are over 90 million people in the United States that are on a statin medication, and nobody here is on a statin. That's amazing. Have you already said what will take away the skin tags and darkened armpits? My husband has them bad. Vicky, keep listening. That's an entire conversation. My doctor considered putting me on a statin when I educate. Okay. He said, do that first. I love that, 8274. I love that. Sally is on a statin. Sally, were you watching me yesterday too? Edna is on a statin. Rufina says she's on 2 statins. Boy, isn't that interesting, right? You start one and eventually it's not enough, right? I always refused a statin when it was recommended. Sally, thank you for following me. That's 2 days in a row. Thank you. I hope you're getting good information from this, Sally. Okay. Let's talk about statins. This entire conversation has been about insulin resistance. Remember? Let's go here real quick. Dr. Bickman, right? Remember his website, insuliniq.com. And insulin resistance being depicted as the root cause of all of these things right here. Insulin resistance is the root cause of all of those things, including heart disease. And you're probably taking a statin medication because of your heart disease. Now, let's come over here. I'm going to share my TikTok. Again, this is my TikTok page. And my TikTok page has a lot of videos that are centrally themed. I want to go down to Dr. Ben Bickman's video that I've got on here, and it is him talking about those statin medications, okay? Right here.
Cholesterol is a molecule of life. Despite our general societal fear of it, it is involved in countless processes within every cell of the body. Unfortunately, our fear or hatred of cholesterol has given rise to the use of statins, which is a general class of medication that acts to inhibit the body's ability to create cholesterol. Well, that is a good way, a statin, to lower your cholesterol. There are consequences to this. Here's a manuscript that was just published in the European Journal of Pharmacology, and it outlines the evidence implicating statins as a molecule or a drug that increases the risk of insulin resistance and therefore type 2 diabetes. Ironically, insulin resistance is a greater predictor and risk factor for heart disease than LDL cholesterol is. So tragically, and again, ironically, despite lowering cholesterol levels, by increasing insulin resistance, we may be making the problem even worse.
How about that? Now, let's go over here and let's just talk about this right here. This study, I found it on NIH, PubMed Central. This was published online July 17th of 2023, just last year. If you're curious, there is your PubMed ID. And I want to scroll down to this area right here. The included studies had a total of 46,728,000 participants, nearly 47 million. The findings suggest that the use of statins is associated with a decrease in insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance. Statin medications, we have proof, are causing insulin resistance. And if you are insulin resistant, guess what? How many other medications can they prescribe you? And if you're just joining me because you've got skin tags or darkening or discoloration, well, guess what causes that? Insulin resistance. The same thing. Over here, let's go to this tab right here. This one was done in September of last year, September 19th. It was published online. Statins and the risk of type 2 diabetes, mechanism and clinical implications. Now, this is all new information, right? Maybe we're thinking, hey, our doctor didn't know that. Let's see. Right here, let's go down to the concluding remarks, right? In a meta-analysis of 15 observational studies, the risk of incident type 2 diabetes was 55%. 55% of the people taking a statin got diabetes. In 4 individual studies, the risk of incident type 2 diabetes was from 36 to 48%. And in the U.S. veteran study, 21 to 22% for low and medium potency statins like pravastatin and fluvastatin, and 34% for high potency statins like simvastatin, atorvastatin, and rosuvastatin. Now, I was on a max dose of rosuvastatin. Atorvastatin is the #1 prescribed. So how many of you are on a statin that you've now learned causes insulin resistance? How about that? Holly, keep listening to me. My heart doctor says I'm 1 marker from pre-diabetic, right? You're at 5.6 A1C. That's what your doctor's telling you. It makes sense. Since I was put on the statin, I have not been able to lose an ounce, even lowering my sodium intake. Is sodium an enemy? Let me ask you something. Do we have any hunters listening to me right now? I'm going to go a little bit carnal here, right? But are there any hunters listening to me? And if so, you're hunting deer. What's one of the tools that you use to attract deer? Is a salt lick. A salt lick is one of salt is one of the most, it literally is one of the first things a living organism craves. Like from baby, it craves salt. Is that really the enemy? Or is our body not processing things right because we're on a high carb, low-fat diet as opposed to a low-carb, high-fat diet. Maybe it's the problem. Maybe it's what we're eating. Okay, so if you are on a statin medication, it's causing insulin resistance. And if you are insulin resistant, then of course, all of these things become a problem. Now, the reason I bring this up, let's go over to Google. I want to go to Google and type, what is the top heart hospital in the United States? And it says the Cleveland Clinic. Go to Google and look for that yourself. Okay, now what I want to do from here is share this page. The Cleveland Clinic, America's top heart hospital, did a published research paper on a fiber multivitamin combination therapy. Are you starting to connect the dots here? Cleveland Clinic did a published research paper on that blend of fiber from Rexall Pharmacy. You'll find, here's your publication information. But really, from the Preventative Cardiology section of the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, Cleveland, Ohio, submitted November 15, 2001, and accepted February 14, 2002. And if we just go over to the results real quick, how many people are struggling with LDL cholesterol, right? Your LDL is a little bit too high. Let's go right here. By the time of the interim visit, which was 4 weeks after randomization, the treatment group demonstrated significantly lower LDL-C than the placebo group. That trend continued through the next 4 weeks to the end of the blinded phase. And the Cleveland Clinic, you'll notice if you are struggling with cholesterol, they tested LDL cholesterol, total cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, triglycerides, overall body weight, glucose, ApoB, in every case, and you are more than welcome to read this research yourself, in every single case, it improved. That fiber multivitamin combination therapy from Rexall Pharmacy, the Cleveland Clinic, the top heart hospital, found that it improved every single category that they tested it against. And they would go on to say, such a product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially decrease the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescription drugs, aka statins. If you're on a statin medication, the Cleveland Clinic told us more than 20 years ago that there was an all-natural, plant-based product with no side effects that improved all of those categories and could potentially replace the need for statins. It's in their own writing. It's right here. If you would like this research paper, let me know, and I will show you where to find it. It's a fascinating read. Now, who's heard of the glycemic index? If you've heard of the glycemic index, maybe type I have. And by the way, thank you for all of the gifts. Has anybody heard of the glycemic index? Got quiet on me here. The glycemic index, according to the Mayo Clinic, the glycemic index ranks foods on a scale from 0 to 100. The low end of the scale has foods that have little effect on blood sugar levels. The high end of the scale has foods with a big effect. So we want to avoid foods that are high. We want to gravitate towards foods that are low. Foods that are high spike your blood sugar. Foods that are low do not. Glycemic index, the low is 1 to 55, the medium is 56 to 69, and the high is 70 and above. Don't worry about memorizing the numbers. Memorize the category: low, medium, high. You want to avoid high, strongly avoid high. You want to gravitate towards low. Now, what are examples of them? Well, an example of a high glycemic food is white rice, white bread, and potatoes. Remember I said earlier we should avoid the potatoes? According to the Mayo Clinic, they are a high glycemic food. They are going to spike your blood sugar. When you spike your blood sugar, you spike your insulin. If you do that over time, day in, day out, you start to cause insulin resistance. We don't want that. That's what's causing the skin tags. That's what's causing the type 2 diabetes. That's what's causing the migraines and the PCOS and all of those things is the food that we're eating. So low glycemic index, green vegetables, most fruits, raw carrots, kidney beans, okay? Low on the glycemic index. The reason I bring this up is if you go to Google and ask Google, who is the home of the glycemic index? They will tell you it is the University of Sydney, Australia. If you go to glycemicindex.com. In fact, I want to go back to this tab. The International Glycemic Index database and website are led by Professor Jenny Brand-Miller at the University of Sydney, Australia. The International Glycemic Index is led by Professor, she's a doctor, Jenny Brand-Miller, okay? Jenny Brand-Miller, keep that name in your mind. She's going to mean something here in just a second. We go to the University of Sydney, Australia. This is glycemicindex.com. Hit the About page, and it talks about her. Professor Jenny Brand-Miller. She is an internationally recognized authority on carbohydrates and the glycemic index with over 250 scientific publications. Dr. Jenny Brand-Miller is an absolute powerhouse when we're talking about glucose regulation, glucose and insulin. She is the queen. We listen to her with our best ears. Why do I bring her up? Well, she, Dr. Jenny Brand-Miller, while at the University of Sydney, Australia, studied the effects of that same blend of fiber from Rexall Pharmacy on, of all things, white bread, white rice, and mashed potato. In each case, it lowered the glycemic index. Again, you don't have to remember the numbers, but it lowered the glycemic index from high to medium. We want to strongly avoid high. We want to avoid medium, right? And gravitate towards low. Well, it took foods that were high, that were bad, and made them at least tolerable in the medium category, that blend of fiber. She studied it a second time, again, from the University of Sydney, Australia. And I want to point out that this was 2011. We've had this solution for well over 13 years, or right at 13 years. She found that it caused a 20 to 28% reduction in blood glucose levels and a 13 to 27% reduction in blood insulin levels. Those are absolute key. So, with that being said, when I say I drink this before I eat, that is 100% why I do. When I say that I use something, it is backed by science. We've been told time and time again for the last 5 years, follow the science. Speaking of science, this guy right here, Dr. Ben Bickman, professor of cell biology at BYU, one of the world's leading authorities, metabolic scientist, is on the, he is the director of the science and advisory board for the company. He's the director of it. If you respect Ben Bickman, he stands by these products. I think that speaks volumes. If you've heard of the prescriber's digital reference or the physician's desk reference, that's this book that maybe you saw on your doctor's desk for years and years and years. This is where your doctor goes to find out information about commonly prescribed medications. It's in there. Your doctor can look it up in the PDR. It's in there. So the system, let me just tell you real quick, the two items come together as a kit. That kit costs $154 per month. That's $5 per day, and the company offers you a 90-day money-back guarantee if you don't have a wonderful experience. If you are not completely satisfied after 90 days, they will give you all your money back. What they are guaranteeing you is that you're going to see a reduction in your blood glucose. You are going to see a reduction in your A1C. You're going to see a reduction in your cholesterol, your body weight, your blood pressure. They are guaranteeing that. If you don't, you ask for all of your money back. And I figure $5 a day is pretty cheap for that type of guarantee. So with that being said, if anybody is interested in how to purchase those products, if you type the word interested, I will know that you want to know more about how to buy those products. Otherwise, I'm kind of done with the live stream, the bulk of the information. Let's just transition over to a Q&A. I'm wide open for questions about my own personal diet, about what's up, Michelle? How are you, Michelle? I want to show a picture real quick of Michelle. Okay, getting a lot of people. Coach is interested. Mandy Ray is interested. Chris is interested. Real quick, Cows and Cotton just came into here, and Vicky says, your whole life is going to get better, promise. I love that, Vicky. That has happened for Vicky. But Cows and Cotton, I want to talk about Cows and Cotton here real quick. I want to share an image that she sent me a little while ago. This is her, and it'll blow you away. It'll absolutely blow you away. Let me just get it up and ready. Let's see. I want to share my screen. Oh, I don't think I can, actually. I don't think I can. I know I can. I can. I just got to think outside the box. Here we go. Let's do this. Thinking outside the box, right? There you go. That is Michelle. Let's see. I want to change the video so it's mirrored. This is Michelle. That was her before she started this system. Turn that one off. And let me get this off of here. That was her before she started the system. This was her 7 months later. 7 months. That is a 7-month transition. She's lost over 80 pounds and 67 inches on her waist. That's on her waist, on her body overall. This is Celeste. Celeste has lost over 75 pounds. I think 77 is the number. Let me see. Jackie, my friend, down 124. James, my friend, look at that. Down 135. He's actually in Great Britain. If you are in Great Britain, this product is available in the United Kingdom. Ro, if you have a glucose problem, Ro had a bad glucose problem. Ro had an A1C that was over 14%. And hear me out there. Over 14%. In 90 days, in that 90-day trial period, her A1C was 5.9. And I've got testimony after testimony after testimony. If you'd like, we can just keep talking about testimonials. But for the people who said that they are interested, we've got a lot of people listening on a lot of different platforms, okay? I'm live on TikTok. I'm live on, right now, we've got people listening on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. I don't care which platform you are on, but I'm going to use my TikTok platform as the guide. So let's see. Can you all see my TikTok? This is my homepage on TikTok. By the way, if you're on a social media platform that's not TikTok, give me a follow. And I would really suggest you jump over and give me a follow on TikTok. I'm definitely most active on TikTok. But that being said, at The Real Jim BBQ is my handle on all of the social media platforms. You can also find me by searching The Healthy Pitmaster. And in every one of them, in my bio, you will find my bio says I'm a competitive barbecue cook who fought the Grim Reaper and won. This is my story. If you can get there on any of my home pages, you will then see a link that looks like that. Linktree/The Healthy Pitmaster. In fact, if you would like to take a screenshot of this right now, why don't you just do that? I'll count down from maybe 5 and take a screenshot of this screen, and you're looking for that link right there. Linktree/The Healthy Pitmaster. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once you click that link, that will redirect you to my link tree. On my link tree, first off, look through my link tree. Educational books, every book that I recommend is in there. Social media platforms, give me a follow on every social media platform. My mailing list, if you want to book a private meeting with me, you can do it there. But the very first link is the Unicity Feel Great system. When you click that, that redirects you to their website, okay? When you click that, it redirects you to their website, and you are using my referral code to get a lifetime discount to the manufacturer. If you want to hit buy now, that's a pretty typical online checkout system. Again, $154 per month, but it's a pretty typical online checkout system. If you scroll down a little bit, you will come across the products. The tea is called Unimate. The fiber is called Balance. By the way, maybe you're like I typically am, and you just say, hey, I'm going to go over to Amazon and look it up there. It is not an authorized sale on Amazon. Don't buy it there. More than just the fact that you're buying a non-authorized sale, you're going to pay out the yazoo for it. $249, $218, $240. It is more expensive, and it is not authorized. So don't do that. Okay. So through the manufacturer's website, you'll also get the 90-day money-back guarantee. So there is the products. If you want to hit learn more, that's where you can find out the ingredients, the nutritional information, all of that. If you scroll down to the very bottom, you will see a science link. If you click the science link, it will redirect you to unicityscience.org. There you can hit research, and you'll find all of the clinical validation studies. If you wanted to read the clinical validation studies, there are more than a dozen on it. This one right here is the one from the Cleveland Clinic. Just hit see full study. This one right here is from the University of Sydney, Australia. Hit see full study. You'll notice in the top right, you've got different languages. You can switch it to there. This product, my link, works in 30 different countries. The product is available in nearly 60 countries globally. It's not new. Go over to the science team. If you click the science team, you'll see the About Us. You'll find that they have 3 PhD level doctorates on staff in the research and development lab. And that's important. What you're learning is that it's a science-based company putting out a food-based product. If we've been taught to trust the science, this is who to trust. Look at the Unicity Scientific Advisory Board. The director is Dr. Ben Bickman. So we have the clinical validation proof. We have the science community behind it. We have the social community. There are people like myself that have had amazing results. There are people like Michelle, like all sorts of people out here. So that is how you purchase it. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever? Anything? Is there anybody that wants to buy the product but doesn't know how to? If that is you, then type the word help. And you know what else I'll do? I have a better idea. What if I'm just going to post my link. We'll go like this. I'm going to post my link tree in the comments here. Paste. Boom. And then I will. Okay, Coach. Coach, can you see that link that I just posted in the comment section? https:// I know there's a lot of other comments around it, but can you see that link? There you go. Take a screenshot of that link. Jason, you're a rock star, man. I'll just leave that link up there, guys. You can just take a screenshot of that link or write it down, whatever's most convenient, and use that. Ooh, you know what? Aha! Look at that. Let's see. Yeah, how about that? Does that help? Anybody? It's $154 in the United States plus tax. Okay? $154 plus tax in the United States. Let's see. I'll go here. What do you think of that, Tanya? Is that cool or what? Oh, you know what I need to do, though? I need to edit that. There we go. Okay, so let me come back to the comments. Big Pharma won't offer you a 90-day money-back guarantee like Unicity, right? 8274. So what do you do to get rid of the skin tags around the neck and discoloration of the armpits? Pork chops. I do a live stream every single day. Unfortunately, you're coming in towards the end of this one. I've been live on this one for about 2.5 hours. I'm kind of in the Q&A portion of this live stream. But fortunately for you, I am currently streaming across 8 different platforms: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, and boy, I'm missing one. There's an 8th one out there. I forget what it is. On Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can go back and watch this live stream in its entirety, or you can come back tomorrow and watch the live stream again and interact with me. And you know what? Somebody did order just a moment ago. Let me see. That was Robin. Is Robin still in the live stream? Do it, Vicky. Robin, you're still in the live stream. So I'm going to use you as an example here, Robin. Okay. So what I'm going to do with Robin right now is Robin says that they are still in here. And to kind of illustrate what I do with people is I send you a text, and I'm going to send it to you right now, Robin. Oh, I can't, Tanya. Tanya says I need to pull that QR code down. I don't think I can pull that down, Tanya. I can't move it. So Tanya's saying it's hard to see the QR code. I don't have the ability to change its location, Tanya. That sucks. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, Robin, I'm going to send you a text right now. I see you right there. Okay, so is it IN? ROBIN. So this is what I do for every single person that signs up. I send you my congratulations text. In that congratulations text, I'm going to give you, so Robin, you just used my link. I'm going to give you your link in this text. In this text, it's also going to have a bunch of videos that I would really, really suggest you go and watch. And then in addition to those videos, there are some groups that I really recommend you join. And those groups are really just people that are like-minded. They're think tanks. They are people that are similar thought process to you. They want to get healthier. There's also a lot of doctors and physicians and that sort of thing in those groups. Okay, it is coming to you right now, Robin. In fact, you should see my image. I just shared my image with you. Okay, so to that, I'm not done yet. Let me get you. Got it, right? So this is what I do. Every single person that uses my link, I'm going to send you my information. That is my personal contact. That's my personal phone, Robin. And I'm putting you into my phone because I will add you to my email list. And don't worry, I don't send out a whole lot of emails. The only emails I really ever send out have to do with a weekly Zoom call that we have for education. Okay, so you are in my phone. You are contacting my phone. You now have a text that came. I hope you see that came directly from me. That's not from anybody else. Okay, I'm going to send it. Now, you'll see in there, Robin, there are some links. Go watch those videos, okay? And then join those groups. Find me on every social media platform that you're on, okay? I fear that at some point the United States government might take TikTok away. And of course, we can do things kind of backdooring that through, VPNs and that sort of thing. I don't know how we're going to do that through a phone, but there are ways to, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be the same if the government takes that away. So follow me on every social media platform. In fact, if anybody is listening to me, give me a follow on every social media platform that you're on. It's always at The Real Jim BBQ, and it is always The Healthy Pitmaster. You can find me as either of those on any major social media platforms. What questions are there, folks? Keep coming at me with questions. Is there anybody that wants to order the system but does not know how to? And if that is you, then type the word help. Or do you have questions about diets? Maybe, and I want to be clear, Unicity doesn't have a diet plan to go with this. It's just kind of your there's not really a diet plan. Their 90-day money back guarantee has nothing to do with diet. But if you want to know what I eat, what sort of foods I eat that may help, I'm a wide open book for that. How are you, Natty? How are you? It's been a little while. Something just popped up on me. So menopause_balance is coming at us from across the pond. She's out of England. Put that link back up there. Same old, nothing new. It's kind of late there. It was about 6 o'clock there. Okay, 8274. Question: if I take my collagen supplement at mealtime, will the balance interfere with its absorption? Ooh, that's a great question. I would not think so. I wouldn't think so. So I use Unicity's collagen supplement. It's called Oasis, and I drink it with my Unimate in the morning. I just add it to my Unimate quite a few times, or I drink it at night with my. I do some magnesium supplementation towards the end of the day, and actually I've got some Celtic salt in here that is high in magnesium, but. Does that kind of answer? I'm not really sure about that 8274, and I don't want to steer you wrong. I do like Natty says, and I take it in the morning with my Unimate, but I drink the Oasis, which is a Unicity product. It's how I keep my youthful look. What other questions are there? I love the question. I'm sorry I didn't really have a better answer for you. Is Jason still in here? Oh, the collagen calories. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's talk about caloric fast. Let's talk about insulin fasting. If you're fasting to lose weight, then that caloric fast you really need to be concerned about. If you're fasting for insulin, you're trying to control your glucose and then your insulin, you just don't want to spike your glucose, okay? And let's talk about 50 calories max. So if that thing's under 50 calories, it's kind of not that big of a deal. If it's over 50 calories, that's when we start to have a problem. Hope that kind of answers your question, 8274. Doom, son. You're getting fancy on me with the QR code. What's up, brother? One Hip Max. It's one of my guys from the barbecue world. What's up, brother? Yeah, and actually right now, Keith, I am live across 8 different platforms at the same time. If you jump over to our Facebook, I'm there right now. I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. I'm live on everything right now, and that's kind of cool. I'm getting real fancy. The QR code's kind of not that big of a deal. Yeah. How are you, brother? So, Keith, can I tell a little bit of your story, Keith? Menopause balance. I don't think she's using, or I don't think that person's using Oasis. I think they've got their own collagen supplement. I don't think they're talking about the same thing. What questions, guys? Is there any questions, or are we wrapping this one up a little bit early? 2.5 hours. We've got to make up some lost time with these live streams. TikTok wants me to do a lot of live streams. To keep this key, and I want to keep the key. I don't want to lose the key. Does anybody have any questions? Let me ask real quick. Just joining, I have skin tags. Kathy H. Give me a follow. You're on TikTok. Give me a follow. I do a daily live stream. I'm kind of wrapping this one up right now. Elemental has a couple of skin tags, but we're at 11 shares here, 31 follows. I can't see the number of likes because I've got that thing in the way. I'm a Barboys. I do a live stream every day. Ooh. By the way, is anybody listening to me from the Colorado, like the Denver area near Buckley? 14,800 likes. Thank you. if you're in Colorado, Denver area near Buckley Air Force Base, One Hip Mix is cooking some mega good barbecue. I've had his cube. 15,000. Thank you, Carrie says. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. One Hip Mix. Throw the name, throw the location. Woodhill Small Batch Barbecue is the name of his barbecue. It's here in Colorado. He's got a Facebook page as well. Woodhill Small Batch Barbecue. I'm in Colorado, Carrie. Elemental. I've begun to get a line around my neck, and it's a little dark. So Carrie says, as the name, the Healthy Pit Master might imply, I'm a barbecue guy. I love cooking barbecue. And 10 years ago, I joined the Kansas City Barbecue Society and started competing in professional barbecue competitions all throughout the Midwest here in the United States. And one of the people I met very early on in one of my first handful of barbecue competitions was One Hip Mix. His name is Keith. He now owns a barbecue food truck. It's called Woodhill Small Batch Barbecue, and it is legit. You should give him a follow on every social media platform. I know he's on Facebook, but he's a good friend of mine and somebody who actually trusted me with this protocol. I was talking about it on my Facebook page, and we're friends on Facebook page, obviously, and he reached out to me, and he started the protocol. And in his first month, saw an immediate change in his glucose numbers, started feeling better, and he's been on it for now over a year. Started off like most people, kind of not being as consistent as he should because, that's just what happens. You try something new, but it's completely new. But at this point, he's got it kind of locked in. It's easy. It's pretty simple, and he's had amazing results. That's why he's at a year. And it's one of the coolest things. I don't really throw out the other barbecue buddies that are on it, but I've got a number of the barbecue community in the professional competitive barbecue circuit are on it. And that's been really kind of cool. I've also got just a number of my personal friends and family that are on it. And I do love some barbecue as well. Probably not as much as you do, though. I've had a lot of barbecue. Okay, so let's see. For the people that are just now coming in, have you ever known diet? Oh, that is a great question. Have you ever known diabetes to eat the muscle away? Are you familiar with sarcopenia, Jay? That's kind of a whittling away of the muscle. Are you familiar with sarcopenia? Let me see if I can one-up that. Let's go like this. Let's go share the tab. And let's just type in here, what is sarcopenia? Sarcopenia has been defined as an age-related involuntary loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength. Beginning as early as the 4th decade of life, evidence suggests that skeletal muscle mass and skeletal muscle strength decline in a linear fashion, with up to 50% of mass being lost by the 8th decade of life. Sarcopenia. So let's just talk about that real quick. Is that kind of what you're describing, Jay? Did I kind of just hit that nail on the head? And actually, you know what? I'm going to kind of reboot a little bit. There are a number of people who are coming into this live stream that maybe have, how many people are listening to me right now that have skin tags or a darkening or discoloration of skin around your neck or chest area? Natalie, how are you? If you have a darkening or discoloration of the skin around your neck or chest area, maybe on the inner thighs, armpit area, something like that. Okay, that darkening or discoloration of the skin is called acanthosis nigricans, or potentially the skin tags, right? Those, as well as sarcopenia, they are a symptom of the same problem. The problem, the root cause of those symptoms, and that's what they are. Those skin tags, you think of them as like moles or hereditary or something like that. They're really a symptom, as is the darkening or discoloration of skin, as is sarcopenia, the whittling away of those muscles, right? They are symptoms of something called insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance is one of the most common problems throughout all of humanity right now. Right, Jay, you don't have to have all of the symptoms, but if you have any of the symptoms, okay? Jay says, I don't have any skin tags. Well, okay, good for you. But you do have sarcopenia, it sounds like, and that is a symptom. Now, Jay, do you have diabetes as well? Are you a type 2 diabetic, Jay? Jay asked a question about sarcopenia and diabetes, or he didn't name sarcopenia, but was talking about sarcopenia. Do you have diabetes as well? Now, heart disease. Yes, it was diagnosed last year. Interesting. Guess what else is a symptom of insulin resistance? Type 2 diabetes. So let me dive into this, Jay. And for everybody who has skin tags, who has darkening or discoloration of the skin, acanthosis nigricans. Let me go through, and I'm gonna zip through this. I've got a meeting that starts in about 45 minutes, and I don't want to work right up to 45. So I want to have a few minutes before so I've got a brief period of time to explain a lot of information. So Jay, if you have a pen and paper, or I'm a Barboy, or Greg, anybody, maybe grab a pen and paper and give me a follow. Okay, first off, let's just start that. If you're not already following, give me a follow. I am also on every social media platform as at the Real Jim BBQ. And let's see, you can find me on every major social media platform as at the Real Jim BBQ. In fact, right now we've got viewers on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. If you look at your Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, I'm at the Real Jim BBQ, right? Or the Healthy Pitmaster. Give me a follow on everything. I'm pretty active. I'm most active on TikTok. I'm pretty active on Facebook and reasonably active on Twitter. So those are my top three, but I try to be active on everything. So give me a follow there. If for whatever reason we get disconnected, or if you're on multiple platforms, give me a follow on all of them. But let me dive into something called insulin resistance. And I'm going to go to places like the Centers for Disease Control and the NIH to give you just a bombardment of information that I really just call proof. This is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Insulin resistance and diabetes. What is insulin resistance? Okay, so what is insulin? The food you eat is broken down into blood sugar. Blood sugar enters your bloodstream, which signals the pancreas to release insulin. Insulin helps blood sugar enter the body's cells so it can be used for energy. Insulin also signals the liver to store blood sugar for later use. Your liver is kind of like a deep cell storage, right? It stores glucose for later dates in the event that you need it down the road. Blood sugar enters cells and levels in the bloodstream decrease, signaling insulin to decrease as well. So as the glucose drops, so does the insulin. As the insulin drops, lower insulin levels alert the liver, which is storing glucose, to release stored blood sugar, so energy is always available, even if you haven't eaten for a while. Now, according to the CDC, that's when everything works smoothly. But this finely tuned system can quickly get out of whack as follows. A lot of blood sugar enters the bloodstream. The pancreas pumps out more insulin to get blood sugar into cells. Over time, cells stop responding to all that insulin. We are bathing the cells in insulin, and they are becoming resistant because of it. They've become insulin resistant. The pancreas keeps making more insulin to try and make the cells respond. So they are still responding. It's just taking more insulin to do it. And eventually the pancreas can't keep up and blood sugar keeps rising. That's when we cross over to type 2 diabetic, right? That's where you're at right now, Jay. You've made your cells so resistant to the insulin that they're no longer listening at all and the blood sugar rises. Now, what do we do from this point? I bet you are medicating the symptom of type 2 diabetes, right? You're taking a medication for the type 2 diabetes. But if you just look at the way that the Centers for Disease Control laid this out, it really is a symptom of insulin resistance, right? The greater cause, the root cause for your problem is insulin resistance. Now, is it just type 2 diabetes that happens when you become insulin resistant? Let's talk about this guy right here. This is BYU.edu, Brigham Young University, and this is Dr. Ben Bikman. Dr. Ben Bikman is a professor of cell biology and physiology at Brigham Young University. You'll look at his research interests. The focus of my lab, which is the Laboratory of Obesity and Metabolism, is twofold. First, we aim to identify the molecular mechanisms that explain the increased risk of disease that accompanies weight gain, with particular emphasis on the etiology of insulin resistance, and disrupted mitochondrial function. Dr. Ben Bikman has dedicated his life to the study of insulin resistance. You'll see that he carries multiple doctorates. He is astute. This guy is brilliant. Look at his courses taught. He has been teaching the brightest minds in the world all about insulin resistance for quite a while. He's been published more than 30 times on the topic of insulin resistance. You'll notice the publications are metabolic diseases, let's see, glucose intolerance. This is stuff that you should be very interested in. Fat Shake on biomarkers and metabolism and glycemic control, insulin-induced impairments. This is what he does, okay? Now, go over to Google and type in Dr. Ben Bikman insulin resistance. You will find 191,000 current results. This guy is an absolute beast, a powerhouse. He has a website called insuliniq.com. Jay, it looks like you're not taking anything but berberine. More power to you. I love it. You should join insuliniq.com. In fact, everybody listening to me should be a member of Insulin IQ. I don't care if you have diabetes or not. 88% of Americans are insulin resistant. That means 9 out of 10 of us, nearly 9 out of 10 of us, have a problem with insulin. Insulin IQ is telling us how to fix that problem. It is Dr. Ben Bikman's website. I'm a member of it. I have no affiliation with it other than I just love his work, okay? On that webpage, you'll see him talk about Why We Get Sick, which is his book. I have that book right here. I've read it. I've got it on audio file. If you'd like to know what's causing your problem, that is a wonderful, wonderful book to read or to listen to on audio file. By the way, if you want the book, I do have an affiliate link to Amazon in the link in my bio. So you can go and click that link in my bio and it'll take you right there. You don't have to use my affiliate link if you don't want to, but I do have an affiliate link in my bio. Why We Get Sick. I definitely recommend that. I've got How Not to Get Sick, the cookbook, on pre-order. I've ordered it. It's not been released yet. I should get it in July. Now, this image right here is an image that he came up with. And what this is depicting insulin resistance as the root cause for all of those things. And I would ask people that are listening to me right now, we got 44 on TikTok and a number on all of the other social media platforms. Do me a favor and put in the comment section how many of those things you are having a problem with right now. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, blood pressure, obesity, migraine headaches. How many of those are you currently struggling with? How about this? Rather than that, how many different medications are you taking for those symptoms? And I really want to emphasize they are symptoms of insulin resistance. Okay. And I hope that I've shown you, I mean, we've started at the Centers for Disease Control and their definition of insulin resistance, right? And then we took you over to the world's leading metabolic scientist and his definition of the things that can happen when you are insulin resistant. All of these things are a problem that is caused by the same thing. And right now, maybe you're taking, Natalie says, 4 meds for these symptoms. What's another example of a symptom? Is a runny nose when you have a cold. Do you take 4 meds to treat the runny nose, or do you treat the cold? You're taking meds to treat the symptom, and you're not doing anything about the root cause, which is called insulin resistance. And the beauty of insulin resistance is it is reversible. It can be controlled. It absolutely can be controlled. It can be controlled by the foods that you eat. We want to strongly avoid highly processed foods. We want to strongly gravitate towards fiber. We need more fiber. You want to avoid the seed oils. You want to get away from all of the highly processed things. We want to get back to a whole food diet. Now, what causes insulin resistance? Elevated insulin. Hyperinsulinemia causes insulin resistance. We are, as the Centers for Disease Control, as their little write-up on it said, hyperinsulinemia is causing the cells to stop responding. What causes insulin? An influx of blood sugar. What causes the blood sugar? Carbohydrates. In 1980, we said you needed to have 11 servings of carbohydrates per day. What happens when we have all those carbs? We spike our glucose. What happens when we do that? We spike our insulin. Do we really need 11 servings of carbs? Or is that just what we've been conditioned to think we need for the last 50 years? How many people wake up and open their day off with a banana and an orange juice, because that is healthy, right? A banana and an orange juice. That is perfectly healthy. What are you doing? The very first thing you're doing is eating a starchy fruit that's going to spike your glucose, and you're washing it down with sugar water. What is that doing to your glucose? Spiking it. Or maybe you don't do that. Maybe you're on the less healthy side and you know that you shouldn't do it, but you add sugar to your coffee. Or you go and have a starchy piece of toast. You spike your glucose. The very first thing we do when we wake up is spike our glucose. That in turn spikes our insulin. And what do? We carry that thing through all day long because we eat 6, 8, 10 meals a day. We're always shoving food into our mouth. We are always spiking our glucose. And when we do that, we are always spiking our insulin. Now, what happens when we are insulin resistant? We get these symptoms. Now, to that, a lot of people coming in talking about acanthosis nigricans, the darkening or discoloration of the skin around the neck or chest area. Let's go to Google, and I'm going to say, what causes acanthosis nigricans? Right there. The most common cause of acanthosis nigricans is being very overweight. Other causes include type 2 diabetes, conditions that affect hormone levels, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or an underlying thyroid. So being overweight, type 2 diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Let's go back to Ben Bickman's. What do we have? Obesity, type 2 diabetes, and PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. They're all caused by the same thing. Your darkening or discoloration of the skin is a very, very early onset symptom of a much, much larger problem. If you don't do anything to fix that, it's going to get worse. And not only will your skin tags become more prominent, but it's going to lead to something else, like type 2 diabetes or type 3 diabetes. Anybody have any idea what type 3 diabetes is? Can somebody, here's a little poll question. Who can tell me what type 3 diabetes is. And by the way, Tracy, I see your comments on the phone over here. The way that I'm seeing the screen over here, I can't see them, but I see them on my phone. RR Wife 08, Tracy, guys. Thank you, Tracy. How are you? Jay, Alzheimer's. Boom, right? So maybe you're like, I'm not really concerned about those skin tags. Maybe I'm not concerned about the migraine headache. Maybe I'm not concerned about the few extra pounds that I'm carrying around. Those are early symptoms of a much larger problem. And if you don't start addressing the root cause for those symptoms, guess what you're at a much higher risk for? Heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease. Nobody wants those. So if you have that acanthosis nigricans, address it now. Now, what I like to talk about, and I'm going to kind of get to the fruit of the crux here, right? Let's get to the point. I do take a supplement to help reverse my insulin resistance. One of those supplements, I want to talk about GLP-1s. Who is listening to me right now that has heard of GLP-1? Yes, Natalie, I have reversed my type 2 diabetes completely. I was a 12.2%. I'm now a 5.1%, and all of those little skin tags are gone. Don't eat anything first thing in the morning. Ima, don't eat anything. I fast. I skip breakfast. Okay, Jan, how are you, Jan? Jan says, yes, she's heard of GLP-1s. GLP-1, this is things like Ozempic and Wegovy and Mounjaro and Zepbound and Trulicity. I was on Trulicity and Saxenda, or maybe the oral form, which is of a semaglutide, which is called Ribelsis. We now have a pill for that. What are they? They are GLP-1 receptor agonists. See, your body produces an incretin hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1. And when GLP-1 is elevated, glucose and insulin are suppressed. When GLP-1 is elevated, appetite is suppressed. When GLP-1 is elevated, stomach dumping slows down. When GLP-1 is elevated, the fat cell shrinks. We want to elevate GLP-1. Now, those medications, those injectables, are what they call GLP-1 receptor agonists. They are making your body produce more GLP-1. It's something that you already make. They're just making you produce more of it. Now, Dr. Bickman is on tape as saying, okay, if 1 to 10 is a natural range, they are pushing you to an 11. And what happens when we get to an 11? It's not without side effects. Of course, we're seeing the fat cells shrink rapidly. And of course, we're seeing glucose numbers drop rapidly. But every single one of those has a side effect of thyroid C-cell tumors, including cancer. And I want to ask everybody listening right now, we are so desperate for a solution, right? We feel like we need a solution. I'm tired of being fat. I'm tired of being diabetic. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. And you know what? This thing seems like the magical potion, right? All I have to do is once a week pump this into me and everything magically just goes away. Or does it? What's happening? We are, in fact, slowing our stomach dumping down real slow, right? If we want to be in that 4 to 6 hours, at time they are slowing you down 24 to 48 hours. In fact, there is a side effect that's coming out now called gastroparesis. That's a paralyzing of the stomach muscle. Jan says loss of muscle mass. Exactly. Loss of bone mass. I just listened to Dr. Ben Bickman give a speech. I was in Las Vegas in the beginning of March listening to Dr. Ben Bickman talk about this, and he was suggesting that they not only cause a loss of muscle mass, but they cause a loss of bone mass. Now, if you are a young man, chances are you might be able to recoup some of that bone mass loss. If you are not a young man, if you are a woman of any age, if you are an elderly man, you're not getting it back. Bone mass. Dr. Ben Bickman's website, Sam, is called insuliniq.com. Okay, insuliniq.com. Okay, so what if, let's talk about GLP-1. Has anybody heard of this guy, Dr. Andrew Huberman? Dr. Andrew Huberman is an associate professor of neurobiology at Stanford. This is his profile on Stanford medicine. Like, we should listen to people that are at Stanford, right? He is an associate professor of neurobiology and, by courtesy of, psychiatry and behavioral sciences. This guy is freaking brilliant, okay? Now, Dr. Andrew Huberman got his bachelor's from the University of Cal Santa Barbara, his master's from the University of Cal Berkeley, his PhD from the University of Cal Davis, and his postdoctorate from Stanford University. We should listen to Dr. Andrew Huberman. Fair? He knows a thing or two. He is brilliant. I want to talk about this right here. This is Dr. Huberman talking about other ways to increase GLP-1 production. We want more GLP-1. Listen to what Dr. Andrew Huberman says about
it. Was looking down in South America, was looking at Gila monsters, those really scary things. And he realized they don't have to eat very often. I wonder if they're hungry all the time or not. Turns out it takes their blood, isolates a peptide, which turns out to be GLP-1, puts it into other animals, and realizes it suppresses appetite. Amazing, right? Like, this is what I love about biology. Some dude who studies Gila monsters. Turns out humans make GLP-1. GLP-1 is stimulated by things like yerba mate tea. Certain other compounds, plant compounds, stimulate its release. But what does it do in the hypothalamus? It suppresses hunger by way of, there's a particular brain arcuate pathway, blah, blah, blah. But it also affects the mechanosensors of the gut so that you feel like your gut's full. Like it's almost like you're getting like a pharmacologic tummy, stapled stomach, right? So when people take a drug that mimics GLP-1, their brain is like, well, I'm not as hungry, and their stomach feels full even though it's empty. The guy down inside.
Yeah. How interesting is that, right? Wait a minute. Yerba mate tea stimulates GLP-1 production. Yerba mate. I think that is wickedly powerful. Now, I talk a lot about Dr. Ben Bickman. This guy here, right? Dr. Ben Bickman, this is him, professor of cell biology and physiology, multiple doctorates, arguably the world's leading metabolic scientist. This is my web page. I'm sorry, my TikTok page, right? If we just scroll down a little bit, you'll see this video that I did duetted with a friend of mine, Sheridan. This video right here is powerful. Listen to this video.
Okay, a lot of people are into these Ozempic and weight loss drugs. If you're on or considering them, you might want to watch this. I don't know if you follow Dr. Andrew Huberman, but he was just on Joe Rogan, and he was basically saying, why take Ozempic when you can do the same thing naturally with no side effects using yerba mate?
Turns out humans make GLP-1. GLP-1 is stimulated by things like yerba mate tea. Certain other compounds, plant compounds, stimulate its release. But what does it do in the hypothalamus? It suppresses hunger.
This is the highest, most concentrated version of yerba mate I've found on the planet. And one of the top scientists in the world when it comes to insulin resistance.
Dr. Ben
did a
Bickman.
study on this yerba mate.
That I'll be sharing at a meeting in March in Las Vegas is that this yerba mate supplement called Unimate also increases GLP-1. We found in this experiment we did, the GLP-1 levels went up by about 70% in a fasted state, which is pretty considerable.
This does the
By about 70% in a fasted state. This tea right here, right? You just heard Dr. Andrew Huberman talk about yerba mate, and you just heard Dr. Ben Bickman talk about this tea right here. One other little tidbit to that. Let's share this right here. This is published in October of last year. So October 20th of 2023. And you'll notice yerba mate supplement exerts beneficial tissue-specific effects on mitochondrial efficiency and redox status in healthy adult mice. The reason they used mice was they had to sacrifice the mouse, and they're not finding humans that are willing to sacrifice themselves for science. But done by Dr. Ben Bickman. And if you go to the materials and methods, you'll find that he used the exact same tea, that same tea that I drink. So this tea that I drink has all sorts of science. We're told that we're supposed to trust the science, right? Listen to the science, follow the science. There's a lot of science here. This has about 10 times the chlorogenic acid of a typical cup of coffee. Now, chlorogenic acid, let's look at a little bit of science. Let me see. Here. Share this tab. The effects of chlorogenic acid on blood pressure. This is a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized clinical trials. What we know, in conclusion, the evidence from published randomized clinical trials suggests that chlorogenic acid intake causes statistically significant reductions in systolic and diastolic blood pressures. This, as best I know, is the most concentrated form of chlorogenic acid in the world right now. It is amazing. So I drink this tea. In fact, I'm drinking it right now. The other thing that we do to control our glucose spike is we increase our fiber. There are two types of fiber. There is a soluble fiber and an insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber kind of goes through your gut tract. It does not dissolve in water, and it kind of goes through your gut tract like a roto-rooter. And it gets rid of the things that we're not going to absorb. So excess carbohydrates that we're not going to absorb and convert to glucose, it goes through like a roto-rooter and gets rid of them, and we poop them out in the morning, right? An example of that, my favorite example, is quinoa. Quinoa is a whole grain that you boil to tenderness, right? And you eat it. And when you eat it, it looks like that familiar quinoa look, right? Well, the next morning when you poop it out, it looks identical. It just goes through you and gets rid of all of that stuff. It firms up the stool, so you don't have quite as loose a stool when you have that type of fiber. Now, insoluble or soluble fiber dissolves in water. It does dissolve, and it forms this thick, sticky, gelatinous type matrix. And it lines the gut tract and slows down the body's ability to process the carbohydrate. Now, when we do that, when you eat something that is high in the glycemic index, something like white bread, white rice, mashed potato, those things would otherwise spike your glucose. When we add an appropriate amount of fiber to our diet, it slows down our body's ability to process those carbohydrates. What that does is keeps us from having those out of control blood sugar spikes. We get a slow, gradual climb. What does that do to our insulin? Remember, insulin is the problem. It keeps us from having that insulin spike. It gives a slow, gradual insulin increase. That's what we want. Now, that product, the fiber supplement that I drink, has been studied all over the world, but I want to pick on two places in particular, the first of which is the Cleveland Clinic. If you go to Google and ask Google, what is the top heart hospital in the United States? It will say the Cleveland Clinic. And it has been for some time now. Now, that particular fiber supplement that I take is a blend of, it's a diverse blend of 7 different fibers and a multivitamin. So the vitamins help with the absorption as well. When you put the vitamins and the fiber together, we call that a fiber multivitamin combination. Why does that matter? That fiber multivitamin combination therapy was studied at the preventative cardiology section of the Cleveland Clinic in 2001. It was published in 2002. And what they found was that it lowered LDL, it lowered total cholesterol, It improved HDL, it lowered triglycerides, it lowered overall body weight, it lowered blood glucose, it lowered ApoB, it improved everything. Everything they put it against, it improved. That blend of fiber and vitamins. And in fact, the Cleveland Clinic, again, America's top heart hospital, would go on to write that such a product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially decrease the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescription drugs. More than 20 years ago, the Cleveland Clinic was telling us that we had a solution for the statin medication situation. It was out there. We've had this. This was invented more than 35 years ago. It's been around for a minute, but it is all natural. It's plant-based. There are no side effects. It addresses the root cause. That's why you've never heard of it. There are 5 patents on this. It can't be stolen. The glycemic index, this is the Mayo Clinic, a write-up that they did on the glycemic index, okay, nutrition and healthy eating. The glycemic index ranks foods on a scale from 0 to 100. The low end of the scale has foods that have little effect on blood sugar levels. The high end of the scale has foods with a big effect. Well, we don't want a big effect. We want a low effect. We want a small effect. So we want to stick to foods that are low, 1 to 55. We want to avoid foods that are high. Don't worry about memorizing the numbers that are associated. Just stick to you want low, you don't want high. Let's scroll down a little ways, examples of high. Well, the Mayo Clinic says a great example for high is white rice, white bread, and potatoes. A great example for low is green vegetables, most fruits, raw carrots, kidney beans, chickpeas, and lentils. Okay? We want to avoid foods that are high, white rice, white bread, potatoes, which truthfully, look yourself in the mirror. Do you avoid those or do you have them every day? And we should gravitate towards foods that are low. Again, look yourself in the mirror. Do you gravitate towards green vegetables, most fruits, raw carrots, kidney beans, chickpeas, and lentils? Or do you pretty well strongly avoid those? And then ask yourself, why am I sick? Why do I have these symptoms of insulin resistance? Now, to build on that, let's go over to Google and ask Google, who is the home of the glycemic index? They will tell you the International Glycemic Index database. The international database and website are led by Professor Jenny Brand Miller at the University of Sydney, Australia. If we go to the glycemicindex.com, glycemicindex.com, it takes you to the University of Sydney. If you hit the About page, it promptly talks about Dr. Jenny Brand Miller. She is a professor and an internationally recognized authority on carbohydrates and the glycemic index with over 250 scientific publications. Why do I talk about Dr. Jenny Brand Miller? Because Dr. Jenny Brand Miller, while at the University of Sydney, Australia, studied the exact same product, and she put it against white bread, white rice, and mashed potato. And in each case, Dr. Jenny Brand Miller found that it lowered the glycemic index from high to medium. Now, we still want to avoid foods that are medium, but high is really bad. And in each case, it moved those foods from high to medium. She studied it a second time. The second time she studied it, she found that it lowered blood glucose levels by 20 to 28% and blood insulin levels by 13 to 27%. Those are just absolutely massive, massive numbers. Now, I want to go to, let's see, About Us. If you go to unicityscience.org, you'll find the science team. They have 3 PhD level doctorates on staff, and they have a scientific advisory board where Dr. Ben Bickman is the head of. Dr. Ben Bickman is the director of the Scientific Advisory Board. That's this guy right here. So I take a combination of 2 products every single day. Those products are the tea and the fiber. It is that simple. I pair that with intermittent fasting and poof, my insulin resistance is way down. It is quite literally that simple. It is a food, which remember, your insulin resistance is driven by the foods that you eat. Eat better food. Okay. Jan asks, do you have to do this program forever? No. Jan, you never needed to do it. You never had to do it. But the fact is, you're picking foods that are making you sick, right? If you don't want to, oh, it looks like somebody scanned the QR code. Wonderful. If you don't want to be sick, change the foods that you are eating, right? And what this does is this really kind of bridges the gap between awful foods and good foods. It just helps with the modern day food market. So no, you don't need to take it forever. You don't need it at all. But if you are going to consciously not make a jump into a diet that directs you towards a very specific food all the time, well, you're going to have a hard time. So these will help there. I hope that answers your question, Jan. Natalie asks, what do you eat daily? I love the question. And I get asked that question. By the way, let me put the website up really, really quick. If you want to order the product, first off, you could scan that QR code up in the top, and it looks like somebody just did scan the QR code. You could do that. Or you could go, I don't know if you guys can see that link down at the bottom of my screen, Linktree/The Healthy Pitmaster. That is another place that you can order the product. In addition, you can go to the homepage. Whatever you're listening to me on right now, we've got people on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you're on any of those, navigate to my homepage on any social media platform, okay? Navigate towards my homepage, and I will pick on my TikTok homepage. This is what my TikTok homepage looks like on a laptop, right? But that's where you'll find my profile picture and my bio. I'm a competitive barbecue cook who fought the Grim Reaper and won. This is my story. That link right there, it's the same link that I've got shared at the bottom of the screen right now. Linktree/The Healthy Pitmaster. Okay, so food. What foods do I eat every day? I generally at lunch, and I got this actually from Dr. Ben Bickman. I've watched a lot of Dr. Ben Bickman interviews. In fact, if you go over to my Facebook page, if you should go over and give me a follow on my Facebook page at The Real Jim BBQ, The Healthy Pitmaster on Facebook, give me a follow there. I've got an event that's starting in about 10 minutes. I'm going to hop off of this. I encourage you to go over there and watch that event. It's a live broadcast from Dr. Ben Bickman himself talking about male infertility and how insulin resistance ties into that. So if you know anybody who struggles with infertility as a male, he's doing a podcast on that today. You can see the event on my Facebook page. It's coming up here in about 10 minutes. Jump over there and watch that. Sam, I am not. The very first game I ever went to was in 1983 at the old Camden Yards. Eddie Murray, if you remember, Eddie Murray was center field. Cal and Billy were both playing. Cal Sr. was coaching. The good old days. I grew up watching Mickey Tettleton. I grew up an Orioles fan. When I was a kid, I coached baseball, and I always coached the Orioles. I've just always been an Orioles fan. Okay, so I listening to Dr. Ben Bickman, getting back to the point, Natalie, Dr. Bickman suggests eating a very low-carb lunch. So oftentimes for lunch, I will eat bacon and eggs. There's 0 carbs there. Oftentimes for lunch, I might have sausage or something like that. But again, just very, very low. Occasionally, I might have my friend Tanya here. If you guys aren't following Tanya on TikTok, you should, or Tanya on Facebook. Tanya, 123 to get healthy on Facebook. Give her a follow. And Tanya puts out a lot of awesome recipes. For dinner, I tend to stay towards maybe the keto or Mediterranean region. Tend to. However, and I say this, however, I would also say I do cheat and I enjoy my pizza. Not very frequently. Once every 5 or 6 weeks, it seems like lately, I'll break down and go get my pizza. I treat myself. My wife and I love steakhouses. We'll go to a steakhouse. I believe mashed potatoes and steak go together. Let's see. Carrie says, how much protein should you have in a day? Look for, what is it, a gram per, or is it an ounce per pound of target weight? So if you want to be 120 pounds, eat 120 ounces. Is that right? Or is it pounds? Or grams? It's grams, I think. 120 grams of protein for every pound of target weight that you want to get to. So if you weigh 200 pounds and you want to be 120, eat 120 grams of protein. Does that make sense? 1 gram per pound. Thank you, Tanya. Can you have brisket? Royal, I love the question, brother. Love the question. Can you have fatty foods? Let's talk about the demonization of fatty foods. We were taught years and years ago to go to a high carb, low fat diet. And how has that treated you so far? Awfully. It has not treated you right at all. So don't do it. Don't do it. Let's talk about low carb, high fat. Brisket is high in fat. It's very high in fat. I love my brisket. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I actually have to wrap it up. I've got a meeting coming up here in about 5 minutes. Send me a message if for some reason, you didn't get your question answered in here. I answer all questions. Send me a message on whatever platform you're watching me on right now. The system costs, no, brisket is wonderful, Natalie. Eat brisket. Lori, how are you? Lori, we're supposed to talk about Hawaii. We're supposed to talk about Hawaii, Lori. Remember? La Unica, how are you? We're supposed to talk about Hawaii, Lori. Okay. Carrie says you are welcome. Okay. I'm going to hop off. I have to hop off. Guys, there's a link in my bio for ordering the product. If you want to order the product, go to the link. It gives a 90-day money-back guarantee. It costs you $5 a day, guys. The company guarantees you're going to have results. If you don't, they'll give you all of your money back. Why aren't you doing that? Okay. I go live every day, Natalie, every single day. Natalie asks, how often do you go live about this? Every day. More than that, Natalie, if you give me a follow on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, I'm live right now on those platforms. And if you give me a follow on those, the live stream that we're currently doing will stay uploaded on those platforms. So you can go back and rewatch this live stream if you like, or you can come back tomorrow and engage with me. By the way, engage with me, guys. I have to hop off. I've loved this live stream. This was fun. I'm at about 3.5 hours. That is crazy. Jay, I hope you got some good information. I hope everybody got some good information about this. Real quick, Brooks, 1011, Donna, do you have to wait 15 minutes after taking the balance to eat? See, you thought I left you, Brooks. Are you still here, Brooks? Are you still here, Brooks? So here's the deal. The University of Sydney, Australia, Dr. Jenny Brand-Miller did a research paper on balance, on BioSlife. And in her research, she found that if we waited 10 to 15 minutes, a single serving caused a 20% reduction in blood glucose and a 13% reduction in blood insulin. A double serving of Bios Life, which is also called Balance, caused a 28% reduction in blood glucose and a 27% reduction in blood insulin. That was a 10 to 15 minute eating window. So for years, they have talked about that. Now we have continuous glucose monitors, and we were able to fine tune that research. And what they have found is that if we drink the Balance immediately before the meal, we get a 34% reduction in blood glucose at 30 minutes and a 37% reduction at 45 minutes. It is a steeper reduction in blood glucose if we drink it right before. Now, personally, I found it is more satiating. I feel fuller when I wait 10 to 15 minutes. However, I get a better glucose response when I drink it right before. So if you're not eating a heavy carb meal, maybe drink it 10 to 15 minutes before. That will make you feel fuller. It makes it easier to push the plate away. If you're eating a heavy carb meal, pasta, pizza, bread, right before. Drink it right before. Does that answer your question, Brooks? Natalie Velasquez, I'm going to pin a comment real quick, and then I absolutely got to go. I'm going to need you to take a screenshot of this. Natalie, can you see that link down at the bottom? And there is a link tree in my bio. Okay, the link tree in my bio on TikTok. Go to my homepage and you'll see this same exact link, or take a screenshot of that and type it into the web browser. If you have any troubles, send me a message and I'll send it direct. If you can direct message me, I will just send you the same link in a direct message. On TikTok, you'll have to copy and paste it, okay? So I've got to go, guys. You guys have a wonderful day. Come back tomorrow.